And we are live, I think. Last time, Nani and I had a little bit of technical difficulty, so hopefully we're live right now. Nani, like I just said to you, pre-chat or pre-show, how times have changed. The last time we did this, I believe it was right after the Jets-Saints game, and we were talking about Zach Wilson's chances. And we were pretty low on it, especially after his Saints game, which I think was one of his worst games in terms of accuracy. It was absolutely abysmal. And since then, we've seen the Dolphins game, which I think some people overlooked in terms of how good that game was for him. It wasn't, consistent from rep to rep, but it was pretty good. The Jags game, minus the stats, 102 yards, 92 rushing yards, 95 passing or rushing yards, whatever it was really, really good from mental processing standpoint. And then the Bucks game, you're figuring you go into the game without your top three weapons, without your top three tight ends. Daniel Brown went out at some point too, and he tried to hurdle a defensive back, which didn't work out, obviously, in his favor, missing some offensive linemen, missing, support from the defense at times. So we'll get into that. But before we even do, I have to ask you what's up, because that would be improper of me to not.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I mean, like the season's gone by really quickly for me personally. I don't know about anyone else, but it doesn't feel like that long ago that we were getting ready for Carolina, that I saw you in Carolina, and here we are getting ready for another off season. I mean, we already have been getting ready for the off season because that's always what we do. Yeah, I mean, the positive momentum has kind of picked up the last few weeks in terms of, obviously that mostly comes from the quarterback, but the whole team kind of progressed in many different ways over the past month or so. So it does feel like there's a more positive outlook on the team going into the off season than it felt like there may have been after 3 weeks, after the midpoint of the season. So there are some good things going on.
Yeah, after the Saints game, it's definitely we've been riding the up of that roller coaster. I know it's come with some losses, and I think this week was like kind of perfect for everybody. Kind of like in a way, like you have the tankers who still lost, even though at the end of the game, like listen, Tom Brady's last game in MetLife, most likely, I wanted them to win. I'll be completely frank with that. But you have the people who didn't. You have the people who didn't want to win for the draft pick, and you have the people who wanted the Jets to play well, the young guys, and we have some. And we obviously had a really good game from Zach Wilson, but then you also had some other pieces which we'll talk about. And by the way, we have Nani until 7 tonight, and then I'll be running solo for maybe 30 minutes to an hour, depends on how it's going. But then you have some depth pieces making some plays and stepping up. From Braxton Berrios to even Dan Feeney, who people hated in the preseason, to some depth guys on defense. Brandon Eccles getting some picks, and some not so good with Elijah Riley, and some other things we have to get into before getting to all of that. Eagle, I see you have a new account. I'll give you your wrench back. Eagle won the JetX Fantasy League, so congrats to him. I won mine, my big league, for over 1,000, which is freaking, thank God I needed that. Narnia needs a new mic, Chris is saying. It's something with your computer, and you can't. He's explained it before, but it's something. We'll figure it out in the offseason, I think.
I'm on my phone because my computer camera doesn't work. I got to figure it out.
Yeah. What's up, Big Green, Chris, Eagles, Socrates, Joey? Draft season is the best season yet. It's going to be fun. Mike, Flash, Yoshi. What's up, everybody? With that being said, too, I think this is the last show that Nani's going to be on for a little while, because then in the off season, we're going to move to the every other week format with Kyle Smith, and then Nani will most likely be a fill-in because Nania is busy as hell in itself. I may not. I'm not sure. It depends. I might do what Jets Talk 24/7 does and do like an hour thing where maybe you guys can call in. Maybe you guys can video chat in. I think I have to do StreamYard for that too, because I think that's what Ryan uses. I'll talk to him about that. So I might do that. Depends on the interest in it. But with that being said, getting through the housekeeping, let's not hit Wilson first, because we always hit Wilson first. Let's start off with the New York media, Nania. Between Willie Colon, between Bart Scott, and we don't try to call individual people out, but I think there's such an uproar about this right now. We should kind of talk about that initially. So, what are your thoughts on them calling Zach Wilson a bunch of things? I don't know exactly what I forget exactly what they called him on top of my head, to be completely honest. Like, I think they called him SpongeBob, so like skinny legs, and they're calling him he's entitled and he wanted the big moment and he's selfish and all this stuff. So and that was on SNY postgame, I think, which I don't watch for specific reasons, this being one of them. But what are your thoughts on how they kind of handled Zach Wilson's 4th and 2 situation?
Yeah, I thought it was really unwarranted, and that very little of what they said actually had basis to it. I mean, to suggest that he wanted the glory by getting a 4th and 2 sneak. Like that was his motivation for doing that he wanted everyone to look at him is completely ridiculous. It was just, I mean, everyone talked about it in the interviews throughout the week. Wilson, Salah, LaFleur, they all took some blame. We know the situation by now. Could have been communicated better. Wilson could have read it better, made the better decision, kind of been more aware that it wasn't the best time to go with the sneak, should have handed it off. Whatever happened, I don't think there's any way you could say that it was a result of his selfishness.
Yeah, what's
I
up,
think
Nick?
that was just,
Sorry, my bad.
yeah, it was just them just pretty much trying to pull out the most ridiculous kind of outlandish quote they could say to get some attention. It's pretty much all it is.
Yeah, Nani, you have a little bit of echo too. I don't know if that's some of your phone or your mic too, by the way. But with it being yeah, and the situation, like, listen, he's a rookie. He technically saw an open A gap and he took it. Now, in my opinion, is that on him to notice? And I'll do this in the film review, which I'm putting out I'm recording it tomorrow. It's probably out by Saturday morning, is what it is. There's an open A gap, but the three tech's a little bit like tilted or slanted. With that being said, too, they're wedge blocking and knowing where the guard was going, he knew the tackle wasn't going to get position to block properly on the QB sneak. So just based on positioning and based on the wedge blocking and typical quarterback sneaks, he shouldn't have done it. But you're talking about a 21-year-old kid, right, who's going against Tom Brady, who's trying to seal the game. 22. Is he 21 or 22?
Yeah, 22.
22, trying to seal a game against Brady. He was told, or based on that play call, he either has the option to sneak it if it's an open A gap, or you hand it to Barrios on a jet sweep end around. And he saw the A gap, and he was kind of just letter to the law. He did it, and obviously it was stuffed. 4th and 1 and really long, or 4th and 2. Now, after a timeout, is that acceptable to me from the coaching staff, from Zach Wilson? No, it's not. But it comes with a rookie coach, rookie OC, rookie quarterback. Knowing the situation, like, listen, it's 4th and 1 and really long, 4th and 2. We have to hand it off on the jet sweep here. There's absolutely no way we're going to get it, especially considering, Dan Feeney's in. You have LDT who's solid, but he's not like he's Brandon Sheriff or anything like that, or Zach Martin or one of these guys. And two, the Bucks have obviously a really strong interior defensive line with Sue and all these guys, so we can't hand it off here. So why was the sneak even an option in that scenario? I don't know. But this is something that, to take the positive outlook, the silver lining is like, okay, they need to learn these things year one when they're 4 and where they're going to be 4 and 13 versus, most likely 4 and 13, maybe 5 and 12. We'll see this week. Versus, next year, hopefully 2 years after that, when we're actually competing for playoff contention in the playoffs. So while it sucked, listen, it is what it is. Like, we blew a play call. They lost the game. We're still at the 4th overall pick. Would I have loved to beat Brady? Yes. Like, let's be honest here. Like, to see them, and I should have tweeted out because I'm just an asshole, I guess. But it was like 3rd and 20 after they got like, I don't know if they got like unnecessary roughness or whatever it was by the offense to put them in a 3rd and 20 situation, and then they converted the first down, and I was like, uh-oh. Like, what's going to happen after that. So it is what it is. But the media, like, calling out Wilson and calling him SpongeBob, and I think somebody else called him like Peter Pan because he looks young. Like, yeah, he's 21 years old. Like, I look like I'm freaking 22 and I'm 28. Like, it is what it is. How can you fix that? You're going to attack his looks, his character, because he wanted to take a sneak on a 4th and 2 when technically that was the right call based on how they set up their offense. So that was an absolute joke. And then didn't they do something else this week, Nani? Or am I wrong? There was something else that they might have done. Or am I off base?
I'm not sure, because honestly, I completely ignore that stuff.
That's the problem. That's the problem. There's plenty of other people who pay attention to a lot of stuff. And I think there was something else on social media where they're calling out the Jets media for, but I don't know what it is, to be completely honest. But let's get off that. Let's go to Zach Wilson in general, and then I'll get to some of the questions in the chat. I see there's a decent amount of questions. Overall thoughts in this game. I know his QBR wasn't good. QBR, or what's the other one? I honestly, I don't pay attention to any of that stuff. I know it was pretty low, but in terms from like a mental processing standpoint, in terms of like a quarterbacking standpoint, how'd you feel about Mr. Zach Wilson in this game?
Yeah, he was awesome. I think this was, and it feels like every single week we're saying it was his best game in some way. Yeah. Like, the Miami game was his best in terms of just short accuracy, the easy stuff. He was sharp and consistent. Then the Jaguars game, obviously we saw his running game be unleashed, but we also saw, even more consistency from an accuracy standpoint. Then this week, I feel like what he was doing against that Todd Bowles defense, which was, Todd Bowles did what he did, and this is the same defense Justin Fields had 5 turnovers against. He's patient and he was calm and he was allowing windows to open. There's the one throw he made for his Cole on a dig or something over the middle. And the linebacker was sitting there and first read wasn't there. And he sort of faked the linebacker, got him to bite outside, then let Cole come over the middle, past the linebacker, and then made the throw. Stuff like that he just wasn't doing at the beginning of the season. The accuracy is just so much sharper on those on schedule throws. And then it wasn't even just making the easy throws in this game. There were so many tight window throws where he needed velocity, where he needed touch to get it over linebackers, like the one throw to Cole near the goal line. So he's the complete package in this game, really. I think this is, and it feels like we're saying it every week, but it also feels like it's not reaching, that this was his best game yet again.
Yeah. And I think the last 2 games, regardless of the stats and everything else, these last 2 against the Jags and against the Bucks are much more impressive to me, like much more encouraging than the Titans game. Like the Titans game, people say, oh yeah, the highlight throws were there, but we knew he could do that. Like you're not going to be able to roll out to the right and throw a 70-yard bomb from Zach Wilson. Like he always could do that, but you wanted to see, the stuff that he's been improving on, the decisiveness, the footwork, the patient feet, the conflict climbs in the pocket instead of bailing out of the pocket, the transitional footwork, the accuracy. Obviously he had the quick release, but you saw that again this game. The athleticism, the throwing the ball away, the mental processing, like it's all been taking steps in the right direction. Like you said, like there are so many throws this game, like the throw to Barrios, perfect location to allow him to turn up and get in the end zone. The one, was it the Cole, the double post when he waited for the linebacker to clear? He was a second read on the double post, the outside read, hit that. The throw to Barrios over the middle where you literally couldn't walk that ball into a better spot because it went probably this close to the linebacker's DB's hands, whoever it was, which I'll put that out on a review. Ridiculous throw. Even the throw where they blow up protection on the screen. And is it McClendon or Vita Vea who's in his face? And he's able to just backpedal and throw the ball over their head, like really, like it's just a quarterback play that he's been making. And a couple of weeks ago, he's not going to make that play with a guy in his face. He couldn't hit screens with a clean pocket. So he took plenty of steps in the right direction. And of course, obviously, it's all kind of overshadowed by the fact that he tried to sneak it on 4th and 2. But again, young quarterback, you can't diminish his entire game for one play. And there was a bad play or two, specifically the play where his feet aren't great and he throws the ball on a I think it was a speed out to Cole, maybe on the right sideline, and almost got picked off right before halftime. Yeah. So he needs to improve that, but he made that throw literally like 4 or 5 throws ago. So he just needs to do a little bit better with his feet, a little bit less hesitant at sometimes, just like the throw last week to Mims when he's hitting that honey hole in cover 2. He could have hit that better. Like there were some plays in Jaguars game, but the Bucks game, maybe 1 or 2 bad plays that I hit him with. But overall, like if he continues this against the Bills this week, number 1 defense in the NFL, or I think it's number 1 or top 5 at least, with no seems like there might not be a Barrios. Elijah Moore at this point, which we can talk about later. I'll talk about later when you jump off. Like at this point, if his hamstrings a little bit banged up, do you want to play him in a cold weather, slippery environment? Week 18, not too sure about that. Davis is out. So if he can continue this this week, we're going to go to the offseason so much more positively on him. And this is something we said a couple of weeks ago, and I think we said like a 33% chance he'd work out. And I think people kind of look at that percentage like it's super low, but to be completely honest, like thinking about it back, you probably say that him starting off right off the jump is like a 55% chance. Like how often does a quarterback work out, even if they're number 1 pick, number 2 pick? So we might have dropped it from legitimately like a 45-50% chance to like 33-35. So yeah, we're a little bit low. It dropped. His rookie season up until the Saints game was worse than any rookie season we've really seen. Let's be completely honest. Like the Saints game, he couldn't hit a pass. The Pats game was terrible. Like he was really, really, really bad for a lot of the year. Worse than Sam Darnold, worse than Geno at many points, worse than Sanchez at many points. So we looked at our history, and we said, listen, you start off at 50 at the best. We dropped it to 35. Now maybe high. It's higher. It's definitely higher. 40, 45. Like, are we back there? 40? Like, where are we at now with the percentage? Because I saw something in the chat was like, you had him as like a lower than 40% chance, but I think it's right around 40 now. And again, understand that with context that every rookie quarterback, unless you're Andrew Luck, starts off at about a 50, if not lower, depending on the chance. But
Yeah, I think that's a good place to put it. I think he's kind of getting back up to that average level because, like you said, through the Saints game, and he played really well against the Eagles. I think he did good stuff against the Texans, but the Saints game was just kind of bringing back all those early season problems. So through that point, like you said, you're going from that 50-point baseline, just pushing it down a little bit, 35, 30%. But with these last three games now, no turnovers, which is very rare for a rookie to do. Then just all the processing and accuracy and comfort, confidence, things we're seeing, I think we're getting closer to that baseline level. Now, obviously, some rookies outperform rookie expectations. You have a Deshaun Watson, a Justin Herbert, a Joe Burrow, these kind of guys. And those guys are well above a 50% chance. But with what Wilson's doing now, he's sort of getting back up to what you would expect a normal rookie season to look like. So I think now, if he can, like you said, have one more good game against the Bills, I think we can come out of this year and he'll be right back in a normal rookie boat, 50-50 going forward, which is, a perfectly normal place for a rookie quarterback to be. Not everyone hits, even top two, even just the first overall pick isn't better than a 50-50 bet. So,
yeah.
I think he's working his way back to being a 50-50 going forward.
Yeah. So, and I kind of want to follow up with that. So let's say he has another game similar, a little bit less than he'd had against the Bucs, which would still be a really good game. Do you have more faith in Zach Wilson at that point if he puts another good game together versus the Bills than you did the day we drafted him?
Yeah, I think so. But just because of the in-season progress of important things, because I think like the reason Sam Darnold didn't pan out isn't because of his rookie season. He had a good rookie season. He closed it well, but it's just because he never got any further than what he was that year. Whereas with Wilson, what makes this run impressive, what he's doing right now, is that he's actively improving on the things that were holding him back earlier. It's not like the Titans game, great game, but it's not like he's just putting up numbers because he's making some backyard plays. He's getting better at the stuff he has to be better at if he's going to be consistently good. And I think that's the main difference between this run and Darnold's at the end of 2018. Not to take away from that, because it was awesome. It was great. I was hyped about it. Everyone was. It was fantastic. But Wilson's showing more improvement in season versus where he was at the beginning in important fundamental areas than Sam Darnold was. And really, you see from many rookie quarterbacks this quick turnaround from being a turnover machine to never turning it over and just all these other things he's doing. So I think he's definitely improved compared to the beginning of the season just because he's shown that ability to fix his weaknesses and build upon them and just develop his game.
Yeah, I kind of was like throwing it up off the backboard for myself to slam dunk it, and you stole it from me, Nania. You made a really good point in terms of like him improving on the things that are like important for quarterback play, like all the traits I was going with before, like the transitional footwork, the eyes, the reads, all that stuff. That's the stuff he's improving on, which is why the Jags game in this game is much better than for the Titans game for me. It's the actual quarterback play that you need on a down basis. Like you throw the ball, let's say, 40 times, 35 times in a game. Yeah, those 4 or 5 plays you're making 60-yard bombs versus the Titans you're rolling out are great, but you need those other 35 plays of consistency, the 5-yard passes, the 10-yard passes, the 15-yard passes to be a successful quarterback, because plenty of quarterbacks can make those big plays. And the difference between, for me, Darnold's rookie year and those games versus Zach Wilson's rookie year, and these games, like the Bucs game, the Jags game versus Darnold's, Packers game, Texans game. And I'll have to go back and actually legitimately watch. But to me, Darnold's felt more off script than the on script stuff that I wanted to see from a quarterback from a down to down basis. So it was almost like Darnold was having more of those Titans type games towards the end, where Zach Wilson's having legitimately good quarterbacking games towards the end. So I'm super encouraged. The last couple of weeks, missing your top weapons, and like somebody mentioned in the chat, I'll get to the chat. There's plenty of stuff in there. I didn't hit any of it so far, so I apologize. But without your top weapons the last couple of weeks, without multiple, like say what you want about free agency and all this stuff, but like missing LaMarcus Joyner, missing May, missing Carl Lawson, missing Vinny Curry, missing CJ Mosley for weeks, missing Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, no tight end, an offensive line, which let's be honest, the last couple of weeks, like bow to John Benton and the entire O-line unit, because they have been solid considering they're a bunch of backups right now. And let's say you add an Evan Neal or a Brandon Sheriff or, Ryan Jensen to that group, and now you have a legitimately top 12 offensive line in the league, I would say, considering Becton's coming back and another free agent or a top draft pick. Like, that's going to be a solid offensive line next year. I know a lot of people, they see one or two pressures a game, they automatically assume that the offensive line is absolute shit because that's what stands out on broadcast when your quarterback's getting hit. But the last couple of weeks, they've been pretty solid. And I think the Jets, you're not probably the stats guy, you're the stats guy, but like since Wilson's come back, they've ranked like 17th or 18th in offense. I think right now they're up to like 21 or 22. And that's considering all of the injuries, rookie quarterback, rookie OC. Listen, they're still 4-12. They have a long way to go, but to look at the roster situation and how everybody has made incremental progress from Elijah Moore to Barrios to Wilson to Carter to LaFleur, adding on a shit ton of draft picks, a shit ton of money in free agency, like most likely. How can you not be encouraged going into next year? And then you flip sides to the defense, which, we'll figure out about Ulbrich, but just getting some of the talent they have back, which still, them being 32 right now, there's absolutely no excuse for it, in my opinion, but they're not going to be the worst defense in the league. Let's say next year they're 20, and then you have an offense that's top 15. Like, I'm really excited moving into to 2022. I'm really excited to do some free agent stuff. Jets X Factor offseason simulator will do some. So I'm definitely pumped up.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously always hard to try to muster up that optimism when the wins aren't there. And we're used to it. We have to do it every single year. But when you consider all the injuries and everything, like the unit that's like it's sometimes when I've been rewatching this Bucks game and the Jags game, like you just have to pause and take a moment and look who's on the field with him. I mean, Barrios, Jeff Smith, Keelan Cole, Dan Brown, Nick Bawden is his supporting cast right now. And he's making these improvements fundamentally and mentally with confidence and all this stuff, in spite of all the guys he practiced all offseason with not even being there. So it's extremely impressive what he's done. Then the offensive line, like you said, has really, since the LVT trade, taken a huge step forward. And it kind of felt like at the beginning of the season that they really were just a good right guard away from being a solid unit, and that's happened. And credit to Greg Van Roten, because he did play well in that one game that he started against the Jags. But making that trade has really brought the offensive line up to another level. And it's been okay, it's solid. And then, like you said, next year, Becton back, AVT year 2 leap. You add maybe another body, a full season of LVT if you can re-sign him. And this is no reason it can't be a borderline top 10 O-line next year. So there's a lot of stuff to feel good about. And it all starts with the quarterback. It would be hard to be optimistic if you weren't getting that, what we've gotten from Wilson recently, but we are. And he's doing it in spite of tough circumstances against a really good team this week. In case there were any questions about him playing the Jags the previous week, has also played some not good teams. But this was the Bucks. Championship winning defense, aggressive defensive coordinator. He played great. So there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic right now.
Yeah, and we obviously have to see, and there's a question in the chat I'll get to in a little bit, but they're about like where we'll pour some of our assets. But like, let's say even in the offseason, you just get Becton back, Fant moves to right tackle or left tackle. There's a debate about that, and which place he should play coming back, considering Fant has been playing, really well at left tackle for the most part, minus, like you pointed out, top competition. But with that being said, like even if you were to add a second round or a third round guard, you re-sign LDT, you have McGovern back for another year of continuity. You have Becton back. You have, you have, like you said, AVT going into his second year. He's going to improve. Now, I think they need a legitimately good backup tackle. I don't think it's going to be Moses. I think Moses leaves in free agency just based on what he's going to get. I think he's going to get, $6, $7, $8 million to be a starter somewhere else. I don't think the Jets are going to pay him that because he's going to be a backup. But they need to pour some assets into backup tackle. But yeah, I'm encouraged for the offensive line. I'm encouraged with the rookie class in general. You're talking about Joe Douglas fleecing people. Look at some of the waiver wire pickups. And I know JFM, since he's on that contract, has been disappointing. But JFM, Quincy Williams, Braxton Berrios. There's guys like Bryce Huff out there, Guidry, who are these not waiver wire pickups, but UDFAs, some of them. But yeah, no, I'm encouraged with the draft class. Now, hopefully 2020, if Becton comes back and bounces back, then and Davis is Davis is a role player, which I think is kind of best case scenario right now. But even if you have Becton, Huff, Guidry, and Hall out of that class, like, is it really that bad of a class? Like an absolute dud. I'm not saying it's good, but an absolute dud. If it's Becton, Hall, Huff, Guidry, I don't think so. And then we still have to decide on Davis, Zuniga, some of those guys who it's not going to work out, but or for some of them. But going to the chat again, Yoshi said the junkie is here. Yeah, I call him a junkie on Ryan's show. I just made Yoshi and Mike Galiza moderators, by the way. If you didn't see that, I don't know if they're still in the chat because I have a while to go. Liam, Eagle, Fat. Wouldn't the big moment have been a TD after the first down? Fat Gandalf said. When I love that name, I always love when he pops up in the chat because it's just great. I don't know what big moment you're talking about. Ben a TD after the first down. Yeah, I don't know. MB99 says, do you think we need to address tight end in both free agency and the draft, or would one be sufficient? And if the latter, which one would you prefer?
I think the biggest thing is that they need a legitimate starter, a guy who can both block and catch. I think, and there isn't necessarily a huge need for a great second guy. Like if you have Tyler Croft as your second tight end, I think that's a good place to be in. Durability is a question with him, but if you can get him back, I think he could fill that role. Wesco might even be okay. So I don't think the second one's a huge need. They just need to be able to block, but they do need a really good two-way guy to be their primary starter, which is why I think Dalton Schultz in free agency is a great option. But beyond him, there isn't anyone who I think really checks that box in free agency. So I would go all out for Dalton Schultz, but they can't get him. Then I think definitely it is worth targeting high in the draft. I still have to look at the prospects. I'm not going to act like I know them when I don't, but definitely it's not a great free agent crop in terms of getting the tight end they need. Obviously, Gesicki's out there, but I did a whole article on it. He's not the guy that they need at tight end in terms of that block and catch guy. So it's a pretty thin group, but Dalton Schultz, I think, checks the box. So I would try to go hard after him.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in the boat where and I want to follow up with that after this, but I'm in the boat with Schultz too because he's a guy who is an intermediate threat, short threat. I know he doesn't get vertical too much based on what I've seen, but a guy who can block. And a lot of people are saying Gesicki. Gesicki can't play in line. That's a big part of the Jets' tight end group is playing in line, so that just doesn't make any sense. You're paying a guy a lot of money to not fill the role again. Square peg into a round hole type stuff with Gesicki, and you're paying him a lot of money. It just doesn't make sense. But yeah, I would go for Schultz hard. And would it be great to grab a Whittemeyer or whoever else in the second round? Sure. But I don't want to go into the draft with such a massive need to force the Jets in the second or third round to reach on a player they don't feel deserves that pick, because tight end is a position that absolutely, no questions asked, needs to be addressed. When you have a team who the system is built on 12 personnel, 21 personnel, all this stuff, you can't go into the draft needing a guy to step up, because the way, and it's one of Joe Douglas's biggest oversights or biggest kind of blunders of this offseason was knowing the system, bringing in nobody and having it be Ryan Griffin and Tyler Croft with injury problems. And some of those injury problems rear their ugly head. So you have to bring in a Schultz. And if it's not Schultz, I want to ask you your options 2, 3, 4 maybe. But if it's not a Schultz, you grab, let's say it's a Njoku or OJ Howard or whoever you're going to say. I feel like with that, you have to supplement and at least grab a guy in the second or third round too. Because you have a guy who might work out, let's say in an OJ Howard, you need a guy in the second or third too. If it's Schultz and you grab him in free agency, if there's a guy in the 5th or 6th round who can be a developmental guy and you can develop him behind Tyler Croft and Schultz, I would prefer that too. I want 2 tight ends this offseason, just depending on who. Depends on kind of when in the draft. So let's say Schultz comes back with he gets tagged by the Cowboys or whatever, signed with the Cowboys or signed with some other team. Who is option 2 and 3 for you that you'd like to see them sign in free agency?
Yeah, it is pretty weak. You mentioned a couple guys. There's OJ Howard. There's Njoku. Jared Cook, I believe, is out there. It's kind of rough. Zach Ertz, I think, is a free agent. We'll see what he gets at this stage of his career. He's not who he used to be, but maybe he could hold the fort down. So there aren't a ton of options. I think Jimmy Graham, it's very thin. So it is going to be interesting to see what happens if they don't get Schultz, which most likely they're not, because the Jets don't just get every star free agent that we want. We see that every single year, because there are a lot of teams who are going to want Dalton Schultz. But like you said, they have to do something, because this is it's crucial in this offense to have tight end talent. It hurt them a lot this year not having it. So whatever they do, they got to do something because they don't have a good tight end on the roster, or at least one whose caliber of being a number one option, making a big
Yeah.
receiving impact. So they got to do something. But there are a lot of those guys like Howard and Njoku, sort of failed first round picks, talented guys who haven't done much, and then a lot of those veteran types like Jared Cook, Jimmy Graham types.
Yeah, and like looking at some of like their block, like Ertz isn't a blocker. I know Gerald Everett's out there, but he's not really a blocker. You have Jimmy Graham, who's not a blocker. So like they need to go like, excuse my French, but like balls deep on getting Dalton Schultz. And with that, like some of the needs, like tight end in free agency, massive need for me. Safety, another massive need for me in free agency. Like, you can't go into the draft needing 2 starting safeties. And I'll probably say linebacker too. I like, obviously, yeah, would I prefer Brandon Sheriff and to get JC Jackson? Like, yes, but tight end is such a big need, safety needing 2, and linebacker, in my opinion, needing 2. I don't think you go into the draft needing 2 safeties, 2 linebackers, a tight end. Like, we can't pigeonhole ourselves into reaching for positions like that, or being stuck kind of empty-handed if the board doesn't fall your way and now you're looking to sign a waiver wire pickup in August. Like we can't do that. So moving on. Actually, we have you for about another 25 minutes, Nanya. So while I'm scrolling through the chat, article you picked up or you did today, and it's been floating around social media because I can get to a lot of the chat stuff when I'm by myself. Calvin Ridley, people are talking about, Godwin, big target for the Jets, tears his ACL, right? Michael Gallup in my championship game, thank God he caught the touchdown, tears his ACL. So then you have like guys like, Allen Robinson out there, who I saw PFF's like free agency predictor contract list, whatever they put out, and like they're predicting like $16 million for Robinson. Don't know if I'm willing to pay that after this year with him. So you're looking at Ridley, who is a very good receiver. I believe he's 26 or 27 though, so coming off of his rookie contract, a little bit older when he was drafted, but you're looking at a guy who could still be really productive for 3, 4, 5 years for the Jets. So would you be willing? I don't know if you know what the contract situation would be with him. I think they picked up his 5th-year options, like 11 or 12 million dollars. So he probably want a new contract. So you understand that you're trading him for whatever you're going to say, plus a contract. He is a legitimate option, number 1 option. So you have Ridley, Davis, hopefully Berrios, Elijah Moore going into next year. Like that's a top half of the league, top 10 receiving group easily to me. So would you do it? What would you be willing to pay him? What do you think the compensation is going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I get the concerns with it. Obviously, he just disappears in the middle of the season. So you have to make sure all the off-field stuff is right. Is he ready to play? Does he want to play? Mentally, is he invested? Obviously, you have to check all those boxes. And if he's not, then don't do it. So obviously, it's all contingent on that. But in terms of on the field, I think he is really a great fit in terms of what they need, because they need more guys who can beat man coverage. He can do that. They need a deep threat. He can do that. They need a red zone threat. He can do that. So he checks a lot of the boxes in terms of what they're missing. He's not really redundant to what they have. He would be adding new skills to where he's complementing Elijah Moore and Corey Davis. So I would be willing to deal for him. I don't think I'd go overboard. I guess I probably wouldn't give up one of the first round picks this year, because we know those are going to be top 10 picks. Most likely the Seahawks will stay top 10. So I'm probably not going to do that. But would I do the Jets second and a mid round pick, maybe a 4th rounder? I'd see if they would start from there, see if they would do that, because obviously they have to re-sign him as well. So you're giving up the picks and the contract. So I'd probably start there with the Jets 2nd rounder and a mid round pick. I really think that he can be that, like Stephon Diggs was for Josh Allen, what the Browns hoped Odell could be for Mayfield. Obviously, it didn't work out, but it's the same. The same goal of trying to support your rookie quarterback. More so, you're hoping to get the Diggs. But yeah, I think he can be that. I think he complements the guys in this roster well, gives them what they're missing at wide receiver. He's in his prime, just turned 27. Like you said, on the older end for coming out of a rookie contract, but still, 3-year deal, got him through 30, or before he turns 30. So I'm all on board for it. I think if he is legitimately available, because these reports aren't, the most concrete, but if he is, then I think they absolutely should be aggressive. I think that's part of the luxury of having, a surplus of draft picks, is that you can think about doing stuff like this. You can trade a second rounder for a veteran in his prime receiver and still have a second rounder to use because they have the extra one. So I personally would definitely be aggressive if he's available.
Yeah, and I feel like Jets fans, like, they want a receiver, and there's a lot of it's like, oh, well, should it be a big vertical X receiver? Should it be a guy who's more of a gadget guy, like a slot guy or whatever? Like, I want a guy who's an all around guy, like Diggs, all around guy, Ridley, all around guy. There's plenty of all around guys out there, so I don't want this Jets offense to make it even more like multidimensional. You don't want to just get, and obviously, like, don't get overblow this, like a DK Metcalf. Like, yeah, that's he's great, but I want a guy who's a little bit more well-rounded than he is, and he's obviously struggling a little bit more this year. And like, you're talking about Diggs, and people might think that's crazy, but Diggs was more of like a Calvin Ridley before he went to the Bills. He went to the Bills and became that like legit number one, like top 5 receiver in the NFL. With the Vikings, he was more like second fiddle to Adam Thielen, who was a little bit more inconsistent. But Diggs with the Bills with Josh Allen has been amazing. So if you can get a receiver like Calvin Ridley, and he's a legitimate number one, no question about it, and you pair him with Davis and more, like, you gotta be pretty happy about that now, like you said.
Yeah, and people forget about Ridley. He put up all his numbers playing with Julio Jones. Then in games where Julio was out, he put up ridiculous numbers. And this was going to be his year to show what he could do in that spotlight. Obviously, he didn't really get the chance to do it. He only played 5 games. Clearly, he wasn't fully into it when he was playing. But he showed that kind of number one ability when he got those opportunities.
How big of a concern is that for you and, Joe Douglas, especially? And I'm not comparing, it's maybe a little bit apples and oranges, but you just see Antonio Brown, stripping and doing all that stuff. And you have Calvin Ridley, who basically just said, hey, and it was versus the Jets or before the Jets week, hey, I'm not flying with you guys. Like, I'm kind of done. So how much does that concern you?
This year was bringing the worst out of receivers.
People are terrified of our 32 ranked defense. So to wrap up this conversation, because I always like to make you take hard stances. It's a fun thing to do. There's no negotiation. Everybody else's offers are blind to you. What's the highest offer you're willing to go for Ridley in terms of draft compensation and contract negotiation? Like, how much average salary per year you're going to give him, how many years, guaranteed, like all of that stuff. Like, this is line in the sand. You're not crossing it. This is the absolute max for Nania and the Jets.
Yeah. So I won't give up a first round pick just because, again, we know they're high picks this year. And even next year, can you be 100% confident the Jets pick isn't going to be high? I don't think so. So I'm not going to give up the first round pick. But I would probably do the Jets second and the Jets third. I guess that would be my ceiling. Then in terms of the contract, I guess off the top of my head, his number would probably have to be in that 16 to 18 range per year. So 4 years, 64, 68, whatever that average would be. That'd be 16, 17 a year. So I think he's a great player. Obviously, there's the whole red flag with everything off the field, and you have to check that off first. But I think this is a guy who is worth making that kind of investment in if you want to create the best situation for your young quarterback. So that would be my line in the sand for the hard answer. Second and third this year, and then 468 for 17 per year.
Yeah, I would say just because it's like a year contract that you're getting him on, and he had all the issues last year, I'd probably say a second and a fourth, a second and a fifth. Second and a third is a lot, especially. Yeah. And listen, like, it's not easy to assume that you're going to get a good receiver as good as him, but there are a good amount of receivers every single year now. How college football is played, that are coming out who are being, or who are relatively successful. Like, if you could get, let's say, like, just like situationally, okay, you can get another Elijah Moore in the second round, one of those top second round picks, or Calvin Ridley for $17 million a year. A second and a third round pick. Like, I think you'd take Elijah Moore. That's at least my stance on that. If you had Elijah Moore versus Calvin Ridley, in terms of what you'd have to give up to get Ridley, you have to consider that as well, because people are going to probably try to bite my head off for that one. Now, with that being said, and I haven't been up on the chat, which I will be, people are already probably pissed off about what you just said, or maybe not. It's hard to please everybody. Let's piss some more people off, Nanya. I'm just trying to hit all the hard stuff before you have to go and record Cool Your Jets, by the way. Check that out. Nani and Ben Blessington. So now moving on to another receiver, You had an article that said 3-ish million, 4 million last week. I said five and a half.
Before he had I think a couple more of his good games. So
Yes.
just to clarify.
And last week I said about 5.5, 6 is the highest I would go. I said something like 3 years, 18 million, 12 million guaranteed is kind of what I was feeling like it was going to be. And people are like, you're crazy. He's not a great receiver, all this stuff, pay him $3 million. This is bullshit. And I kind of explained it like, well, Justin Hardy is getting $3.5 million, and he's just a good special teamer. I would argue that Berrios' impact to special teams as a returner is more impactful than a gunner. So he's already going to be at, let's say, I forget exactly what Hardy's contract is. Let's just say it's 3 million. You put Berrios now at 3.5, 4 million, just because he's better as a returner. He's one of the top 5 returners in the NFL right now. And then with that, he's a reliable backup slot receiver. So how much do you pay a reliable backup slot receiver in the NFL? Maybe $2-3 million a year. So you combine $3.5-4 million with $2-3 million a year. I think you're looking at about $6.5 million. So now there's going to be people who I'm sure in the chat or listening after, whatever, who are going to say, no, that's too high, pay him 3.5. And then there's people who want to pay him $8-9-10 million, and you can't let him escape no matter what, and are saying he's going to be the next Wayne Corbett. So it's really polarizing with Braxton Berrios. I want to see where you fall.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be completely honest. In general, I'm on the not anti, but I'm on the lower end of the Berrios valuation spectrum. I mean, throughout most of his career, I was a very pro Jameson Crowder guy. I think a lot of people underrated the difference between what the Jets had with Crowder in there versus when he went out and Berrios had to come in. They were 0-9 in games Crowder missed and Berrios replaced him until the Jaguars game. And they were scoring 9 points a game. So I feel like there was a big drop off and he just wasn't as dynamic. But this year, things have changed a little bit. He has kind of added more dimensions to his offensive game. He's gotten the drops down. Crowder didn't really have a great year. And then the returning, he added the kickoff returns this year. He's been good at punts, but he wasn't doing the kickoff. Now he's doing both. So he has added a lot to his value. And then even the last couple of weeks since I did that article, he's just gotten more consistent offensively. So I definitely would probably say he's a 4 or 5 million per year guy at this point. But beyond that, I just don't know how, like, at this point next year, like, ideally Berrios has what 20-30 targets next year, if ever, because you're hoping to get a third starting receiver in addition to Corey Davis. You're hoping to get a good tight end, hopefully Schultz. He's hopefully your fifth option if everything goes well. Obviously you love to have depth and you love to have a great kick returner, but like, how much do you want to pay for a guy who's a backup and a special teamer? So I think 5 per year is probably the max for me. Beyond that, I think it's probably going to be not totally worth it. And you also have to wonder if the kickoff returning is sort of an outlier, because again, he wasn't good at that before this year, and he has had some good returns, but they've blocked them up really well. He hasn't had to make a lot of people miss on the returns. So I don't know. I would probably say 5 per year. 3 years, 15 million for Berrios. I think that's a good.
I could tell in your face, like you're trying to like not piss people off because people think he's the next Wayne Corbett, which is obviously.
Yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing. So,
yeah.
If you don't like praise Berrios like it's your religion, then you absolutely hate him.
Yeah. I would say probably a little bit higher for me. I'll probably say 6.5 is like the highest I'm willing to go, just because the Jets don't really have a ton of talent. I think if the Jets were really competing and they had, limited capital, that I would probably pay him a little bit less. But, and like you said, like, listen, you have to kind of look at what it is. We all love like Jeremy Curley, but how good was Curley? We all love Jameson Crowder, but we're the only option. You're seeing them a lot on broadcast. How good are those players really? The kickoff return, like you said, against the Jags, he didn't have to make one person miss. Like, he found the hole and just ran. Like, it wasn't anything crazy. Yeah. And I'm not trying to disparage him, but this is more for the people who say pay him $9-10 million a year. Like, you're absolutely crazy. We saw some of the route running when Crowder was out this year, like the lack of spatial awareness. And to be honest, like, listen, I like the guy, I do, but like, even the touchdown he had this week, again, people are gonna hate me for this. The touchdown he had this week, it was a great design. And that line, basically, they put that email, the end man on the line of scrimmage, in a really shitty position. And he either choked down on Berrios, he threw the ball, or he covered Wilson, and Berrios ran for a wide open touchdown. Like, how great was that really? Like, while
anyone can make that play, let's be honest.
Exactly. If that's Jeff Smith, if that's Crowder, they make that same play. So while he's a good returner, he's reliable. While he's a good gadget guy, who's if Elijah Moore is healthy, the backup gadget guy, the backup slot guy. Ideally, he's not a starting slot receiver to me yet. He's a good returner, but we're willing to pay $9 million, $8 million for that. It's just his people 2 weeks ago were too low on him. Now a week later, he gets 8 catches, 60 yards, 2 touchdowns, whatever it is. People are way too high on him. So my line in the sand is probably $6.5 million. If you don't take it, then I think you can replicate that with other players out there, like a second round, third round receiver.
If there's anything that's replaceable on offense, it's what he does. And again, that's not to take away from him because he's doing it well right now. But what he does isn't that complex. It's just athleticism and speed. There are a lot of guys you can draft on day 3 who have the same athletic ability, who you can give the ball on an end around, and if it's blocked well, he'll run fast and pick it up. So it's one of the most what he does, at least offensively. The returning is a different thing. Is fairly replaceable. It's not to say it will be replicated, but it's easier to replicate than almost like route running or being a deep threat or being able to make contested catches. So again, I like him. Just 5 million is where I'm at. I think more than that is he doesn't bring enough to the table to warrant.
Yeah, and like you said, you made a good point. Like people, again, it's a roller coaster ride. Again, last week it's 4 million. Now people are saying 9 million because they saw him a lot on broadcast, which is I get it, but there has to you can't overpay players. And while I want to keep the good talent, there is a certain line in the sand you need to have for a backup slot, a backup gadget, a good return. That's what he is. Let's be honest, on a really good team. Crowder, him versus Crowder in terms of a slot receiver, maybe not this year, but Crowder of the past is a better slot receiver than Barrios by a good amount in terms of route running. So I don't want to overpay him, and it's fine. I'm a little bit nervous because you're leaving in a couple minutes, and I see the chat like moving down a lot. So I know we probably got a lot of shit, or maybe people support us. I don't know, but it's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna have to take that heat on when you're gone, most likely, Donnie. So you have about 10 minutes. Do you have anything else from the game you want to hit on that was or topics around the Jets that are really kind of actually let's hit this. Let's do this. The Jets are going to finish most likely at 4, right? If you assume they're going to lose in Buffalo. I know the Seattle pick is like we have to root big time for the Cardinals this week because they can move down to like 13 or 15 or something like that if they win.
Yeah, 14 is the lowest. That's unlikely, but max they can go that low.
It seems like I read your article. It seems like they're going to still be in the top 10. Like even if it seems like they're going to be like at least even if they win like maybe like 8, 9, 10 instead of 13, 14, whatever it may be, or whatever you just said. So with that being said, people are kind of like putting out there, and people love the draft. I'm trying to hit on this before you go. People love kind of talking about it, obviously. And that's the biggest part of Jets fans. We love the draft because our season always ends early. What's your worst case scenario for 4? Like what 3 players? And I will preface it by saying Nani has to do a lot of research, a lot of film. I have to do hours and hours and days of film on these guys. With that being said, sitting here January 6th, what's like your worst case scenario for the 4th pick?
Yeah, I'll be completely honest. I don't like the idea of taking O-line up there. I know Evan Neal's great, but I like what they have in Fant and Becton. I like running it back with that duo. And a question I was going to ask you is, how would you handle the left side, right side with Fant, Becton? Just straight run it back, Becton left, Fant right? Would you give Fant a chance to play left tackle? I feel like you can go in just because Fant's been so good. I wasn't on this train probably 5 games into the year, but as he's just carried it on throughout the entire season, now I'm like, why not just throughout training camp and practice, let them split reps and see how it goes. So where are you? And yeah, to answer your question, I just like what they have in those 2 guys. So I feel like O-line would be a luxury pick that they don't really need to make. And I understand durability with Becton. Fant, his contract, he's tradable. Will he keep it up? All that. But I feel like that there are a lot of needs they need to hit. They have 2 good players there. I don't like the idea of taking O-line, but how would you handle Becton and Fant, left side, right side?
Yeah, everybody shit on me for the Fant thing, saying he's gonna be worth that contract, and now everybody's like, you can't cut him, you can't get rid of him for $10 million. Like people want him so bad. Yeah, it's an interesting conversation because Becton has played right tackle. Like there was games at Louisville, he literally would in game switch left tackle, right tackle, left tackle, right tackle. It was weird how they did that. I guess injuries or whatever. I didn't really pay attention to the other guys. So Becton has played right tackle, so it's not out of the question. But with me seeing the ceiling that Becton had being a top 10 tackle last year, top 12, whatever you want to say he was when he was playing, he's legitimately very good. I know he struggled in the offseason, blah, 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 blah. When he actually played, and apparently he did his rookie year too, and then he came in and dominated for the most part. I know this year was harder to see it. You know, you had the injury problems. You have him getting dominated by Carl Lawson. By the way, rookie year, he got dominated by Jordan Jenkins, who's a lot lesser player than Carl Lawson. Struggled in week one. Okay. But with the ceiling that Becton has and the comfortability and the assets you poured into him, and considering age, him being 24, 25 years old, do you really want to move him after an injury to the right side, where he showed so much upside at left tackle? I don't, with Fant playing right tackle in the NFL, being more comfortable there than you assume Becton would be. I know Fant's play dips off and goes to right tackle. He's clearly better at left tackle. But I just don't think a guy who you want to be here for hopefully the next 8 to 10 years in Becton, who was drafted as a left tackle, played left tackle in his rookie year, say, hey, now you're going to compete for the left tackle spot and we might move you to right tackle. So I want to give Becton every single chance. And then if Becton, doesn't work out, he's injured, let's say he gets a bunch of injuries in year 2 or year 3 now. You trade him, you get rid of him, you re-sign Fant, you say, hey, listen, this time you're actually going to be left tackle, we promise. And then you draft the right tackle. I just think that when you pour so much assets into a guy, you want to give him every shot to be that left tackle. So I'm in the camp of keep Becton at left tackle until he proves otherwise. And then you move him if he's struggling with injuries, play, whatever it may be. But it's an interesting conversation because then you go to Evan Neal, who is the top 5 guy, everybody's saying. And I've, again, been doing some research more based on people I trust in my own stuff, which I obviously want to do my own stuff. You're seeing a massive guy again, already concerned with Becton, whether it be whatever side of the fence you're on, just with his size, you have to be concerned with injuries. Take out everything you know about him. If you tell me a guy is 6'7", 370 pounds, I'm going to be concerned with injuries no matter what, even if it's a clean bill of health. I don't care. So now you're bringing Evan Neal, a similar type guy, a little bit smaller, but still similar. And I'm looking up some scatter reports and stuff on him. And it's saying he's not the most lateral guy. He's not the best mover. He kind of leans on his hands. His footwork's not the best. So you're looking at a tackle who, yeah, maybe he could play guard for the Jets, but an unathletic tackle for John Benton's system who might have similar size concerns. I don't really know if I know a lot of people love Evan Neal, but unless you play him at right guard and then you have the flexibility to move him to tackle, I just don't think a guy who is more of a power scheme fit counter, duo is a great fit for, again, square peg round hole type stuff in a, outside zone system. And obviously they're going to run traps. They're going to run wham. They're going to do all that stuff. But is Evan Neal the best pick? Could he be a good pick? Sure. But you got to understand you're investing a top 5 pick in a guy who might not fit your scheme. I'm not sure about that either. So to me, like the 4th pick it's really interesting because Evan Neal, sure, if they draft him, I'll be excited because obviously he has a lot of upside, but like him versus Hamilton, and Hamilton's going to be a conversation all offseason. He has an injury, but again, if he is generational, if he's going to be a top 10, top 5 safety, you almost guarantee it watching his film. Can you pass up? Like I asked the question of Kyle Smith last week, which we can kind of end on, and with this, obviously everybody thinks every top 10 pick is going to be the next, whoever, the next Wayne Corbett, the next, Curtis Martin, the next Nick Mangold. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So if you have a guy in Kyle Hamilton, and they're different players, but I think it's a good way to structure this. If I could guarantee you that at 4, that Kyle Hamilton is the same player that Jamal Adams was his first 3 years for the Jets, and his trajectory kept going up and up and up and not down, like spiraling downwards, where now he's shit with not shit, but he's not as good with the Seahawks. He's an asshole. Like, if we could do the Jamal Adams situation, but a good character Jamal Adams who has much more range, would you do that? If I can guarantee you Jamal Adams right now, number 4, minus the problems, are you doing that over Evan Neal, over Linderbaum, over Williams, over whoever it is? Like, if you can guarantee it.
Yeah, absolutely. I have no issue with taking a safety for any position besides running back, besides tight end or kicker, punter, whatever. Besides those, I'm okay with taking any position at that spot of the draft if the player is, like you said, good enough to warrant it. If you can watch him play and be like, there's a great chance this guy's going to be a huge difference maker. And Kyle Hamilton does seem like that kind of guy. And you look at this defense, it just needs playmakers. It needs game changers. They don't really have that. They have some solid pieces. They have a lot of good young guys who should be depth, but they don't have game changing players really. Quinn Williams can be that. JFM can be that. Mosley at times, but especially in the back end. And Bryce Hall is really good too, but he also hasn't shown to be that sort of game-changing player either. So they really need stars on this defense, and Kyle Hamilton seems like he could be that sort of player. So, like you said, the way you prefaced it, you're getting early career Jamal Adams, who was a major difference maker. Again, hopefully with a better character and everything, then absolutely, I have no issue with taking that. And safety has lost the Jets so many games this year. Like, if you don't think safety is premium, just look at the Bucks game. They lose because the safety makes a bad play.
Terrible
Look
play. Yes,
at
terrible.
the Titans game, how many tough plays they made in that game, and they almost lost. Just throughout the entire season, how many
Colts
bad plays
game.
safeties have made. Colts game. There are a lot of games.
Even
where safety
Jacksonville
plays
last week, like
also.
I know you watched the film,
Yeah,
so you're going to be on the same thing. Like Pinnock got blown up. He had 2 plays that were dreadful. That they were lucky that there was pressure. There was lucky that Lawrence was late, but he had 2 plays he should have got beaten for 40, 50 yards, one being a touchdown. So people underrate safety play, and the whole thing about like safeties is like people, oh, it's diminished value. The Jets don't care about safety. Why? Everybody says that, but they don't explain to me why, because they play cover 4, they play cover 6, they play cover safety. No matter what system it is, you can give me any system you want. It's an important position. So I don't get, it's not like they play, just strictly cover 0 and they just run man every rep. Like they play plenty of coverages where safety is important. So don't give me that. I think that's complete bullshit, to be completely honest. That safety is not important in the system. So it is important. The fact that Kyle Hamilton can play deep safety, he could play 4, 3, 2, whatever. He could play linebacker in the box. Like he's what Jamal Adams wants to be in terms of like being a box guy, but who also playing coverage with great range, great size. So I'm not against it. Like I'm in the boat of, for me personally, it's one of 4. And again, with a lot more research to do, it's obviously Thibodeau, Hutchinson, depending on Karlaftis. I don't know. People are hyping up him and Ojibwa and all these guys. I look into the edge rushers, but right now it's probably Kyle Hamilton at 3 as my third option. But we'll see. People think I'm crazy for that, but it is what it is. Nani, any closing thoughts? Any thoughts on the Bills game before you got to leave? I know you have a pretty strict time. So
yeah, I'm just excited to see the Zach Wilson train kind of continue going on. It's weird because I am at this point, I would like to see the Jets continue playing. I feel like I'm going to miss them, which is not something that seemed possible to be said weeks ago, but they're kind of fun to watch now. So as long as Zach Wilson keeps it going, I think we have some positive momentum to carry into the year.
Yeah, Nania, we look forward to seeing you again. Again, you're probably most likely going to be a fill-in. You got stuff to do, and I'll be talking to you soon, I'm sure.
All right, thanks again.
All right, I'm gonna get to the chat a little bit. Obviously, check out Nania recording a podcast with Ben Blessington right now. Cool Your Jets. Make sure to check out that. Check out the Jets X Factor Offseason Simulator. Just with some other real quick promotional stuff. Supporting my guy Ryan from Jets Talk. If you don't follow him. I was on the show on Monday. Going back this next Monday, and then I'm going on Green Bean's show on Thursday. And obviously check out the film shows as well, because a lot of stuff we're talking about. You can think I'm bullshitting you, opinions, whatever. Go watch the film. If you think I'm an asshole after that, then it is what it is. If you want to debate me. But I usually find that people enjoy the film stuff. So I'm going to go to the chat. I am like literally very, very far behind, and I still have to go through the game a little bit, talk about Wilson, talk about Barrios, we talk about some of like the topics, but like getting into the actual game, I'll run through the positions really quickly at the end of the chat. But I am literally an hour behind in the chat. So, which is a positive. YouTube Studio apparently lets you go back all the way to the beginning. It does not matter how many chats you get, where the chat on like your phone doesn't allow you to. So I'm gonna move through everything. If I see anything that pops up that's a good conversation topic, whatever I can answer quickly, I will do. So I apologize for the reading and trying to delay. Big Green, do you see us going heavy on offense and free agency? It obviously all depends who's there. I think Schultz is like, if they can land Schultz and a Brandon Sheriff, like I'd be ecstatic, but I think tight end's an absolutely necessary one. So, points to the offense on that. But then I think the next 2 biggest needs after tight end are probably linebacker and safety, because again, you don't want to go into the draft needing 2 starters at linebacker, at safety. So I think it's gonna be tight end and then safety, linebacker. Joe Douglas, knowing his history of being an offensive line guy, if there's an offensive lineman or Ryan Jensen, Sheriff, who's Connor Williams, like any one of those guys who is available at a good price. You can go to the offseason and you go to the draft and you have your right guard, you have your tight end, and then the only thing you really want in the draft is a receiver minus all the stuff you need on defense. Like I'd be completely comfortable with that. So I don't necessarily see it going too heavy on offense, but I do see one of those positions being addressed heavily as with tight end. Do you think the Jets address tight end? Oh yeah, I already answered that question a while ago. It was a collective blunder, but I feel like it took the. Yeah, it was a collective blunder, like you said, Flash. It's the offensive staff not telling him, hey, we're going to hand it off no matter what. It's the offensive staff's problem for giving him an option. It's Wilson's fault for being a little bit narrow-sighted in terms of, okay, the A gap is technically open, so I'm going to take it, but considering it's not 4th and inches and it's 4th and 2, for him to get there on wedge blocking, if you're wedge blocking, there's a 3 technique and you're trying to go into the B gap, you're pretty much going to go heads on with him. You're not expecting the left tackle to get positional leverage in front of a slanted 3 tech. It's almost impossible, especially when that guy is whoever it was, Vita Vea, Ndamukong Suh, whoever actually made a first contact. It's impossible. So you want to see better recognition from Wilson in that scenario. And again, with that jet sweep, with that end around, the offensive formation is so condensed, the defensive formation is so condensed, you hand that ball off, maybe he doesn't get a touchdown because they're like at the 3-yard line, 4-yard line. He definitely gets a first down. Like you're watching that back, like I would bet a lot of money he gets the first down on that. Boy Scott Bart. Yeah, Bart, again, the personal attacks and credit. I don't really credit the New York media a lot, but Brian Costello came out with that article saying that he called Sanchez a nacho and he tried to boycott the media and nobody backed him up and all this stuff. Like Bart has definitely dropped. Like I don't give a shit with any of those guys say, to be completely honest. And in my opinion, a lot of those guys, they kind of rest on their laurels a little bit where they're the ex-football players. So everybody's supposed to get their opinions, but then you hear some of their film opinions. They're like, these guys are just wrong. Like they're not watching. So it just is what it is. So when I see something I trust myself on with film and they're saying something the complete opposite, where it shows me clearly that they do not watch, I lose a lot of respect. So I lost a lot of respect for a lot of people, to be completely honest, but, and some of those guys are some of them. Big Green's where's VTOT? I don't know what I'm talking about Vitor, but Vitor doesn't do these shows with us. If it would be great if Schultz. Yeah. We answered the question, Yoshi, on Calvin Ridley. Darnold and Sanchez would have blundered the low snap 3rd down. Yeah, that's another good call, drop, which I'll talk about. Is like even that play, and there were some plays where there was pressure. He had no shot, which he handled well, throwing the ball out of bounds, which he wouldn't have done. He tried to force balls early in the year. And even that play, like, listen, while we love LaFleur, while we love all this, or not even LaFleur, we're giving credit to Dan Feeney. Dan Feeney, low snap. He throws an out route to Barrios, but Barrios doesn't run it with enough depth. Like you're in a condensed area of the field in the red zone. We were expecting, tighter coverage. Barrios has to run that route, if not to the minimal to the sticks. It has to be at least half a yard past the sticks. Like people say to the sticks all the time, but really it's about a half a yard to yard past, because when you're attacking the ball, you're going to come back to it. So if you're just at the sticks, you're attacking the ball, now you're a half a yard short. So he ran the route way too short. The ball skipped, pressure right in his face, and he still delivered it. The best place he could, but he didn't really have an option, even if it wasn't, because Barrios ran the route short. So it's something you have to consider. Stingley Jr. declared for the draft today. Yeah, that was something that I talked about with Ryan. Great talent. I'm concerned about the injuries. Do I take him at 4? I don't think so. I just until somebody, a doctor tells me, hey, you don't have to be concerned at all with injuries, I can't take a guy in the top 5 who has injury concerns. So look into what's his name, Sauce Gardner. Look into, was it Booth from Clemson? Like those are the guys who I would be considering with the 7th pick, but I don't think any of those guys are worth the number 4 pick. Like number 4 pick to me right now, they don't trade it down. A lot more research. Karlaftis, Hamilton, Neal, maybe Ojabo if he skyrockets the board. We don't really know with everything happening with the combine and all that stuff. So Jonathan says Richter, not sure where Ridley's head is at, but they said the same thing about Brandon Marshall. He went out. Yeah. I would love to have of Ridley here. He's a legit number 1 who could do pretty much everything. He's not like DK Metcalf in terms of contested catches, but he can still play really well in terms of contested catches. Drub says no injury prone players this offseason, please. Yeah. The Jets and a lot of fan bases say this, that their team is the most injured team. legitimately, by players on IR, by players on COVID, the last 3 years, we've been the most hit team collectively over the last 3 years. I disagree. Zach has had 3 really bad games. That's it. Yeah, I can go through the schedule, go through the reviews. He had more than 3 bad games. The Saints game was terrible. The Patriots game was terrible. The Falcons game, for the most part, was pretty bad. The Broncos game, I think that's a little bit overrated in terms of being bad, but not a good game. Like, he had a lot of okay to bad games, and then later in the season, he started to have really important or good games. But he had a lot more than 3 bad games. Some of those games, like let's say, hold on, let me just do this, because I can't go through the whole entire schedule off the top of my head. Jets schedule, and then I'll be able to most likely tell you, at least in my opinion. Like, he had some, and I'm not trying to shit on the kid. It just is what it is. He's made crazy progress. Panthers, okay game. He had an okay game. Panthers. Patriots game, dreadful. Broncos game, below average. Titans game, good, solid. Falcons game, terrible. Pats game was okay when he came back. Texans game, okay. Eagles game, okay. Saints game, dreadful. Okay, I get your point. Dolphins good. Jaguars good. Bucks good. Yeah, it's not that he had, I guess, like, not like F- games. He probably had like 2 F- games. Patriots, Saints, Falcons was pretty bad off the top of my head. But he had a lot of games that were way below average. I was not encouraged at all. Where Darnold to start off the year, like, had the Lions game, he had the Colts game, he had the Broncos game, he had the Packers game, he had, with the Bills game, Rob Anderson, a really nice throw on the sideline to the right sideline. He had the Texans game. Like, he had a lot more impressive games to me. But now, again, going back on that, saying or looking at the past 2 weeks, the Jaguars game, regardless of the stats, because there's always going to be those stat numbers out there going to look at the game and say, oh, well, he only had 105 yards, 95 yards rushing, whatever it was. Mental processing, quarterback standpoint, I was very, very impressed with the Jaguars game. Very, very impressed. Moses has been meh. Yeah. Jonathan, if you've been watching the show for a while, if you watch the film reviews, I said Moses was average, and people were going crazy about Moses. Like, $3.5 million, they got him on a bargain, but he's not, like, people are always a top 10 right tackle. We're locked. It's like, dude, no, not really. And he says it's too soon to give up on Davis and Zuniga. Yeah, it's only been 2 years, but they have been pretty bad. Zuniga hasn't seen the field, and Davis, when he's on the field, is terrible. Yoshi's honored with the wrench, whatever, moderator. Give it to Mike too. Adoga sucks. Yeah, Adoga gave up a bad sack this week, where he just completely overset, especially considering he was Cole McGilligan. He's on an island by himself. The line slid right in their gap protection, and he was man-to-man with the emo on the left side. He completely overset, let pressure in Zach Wilson's face. I think he got sacked that play. Give Schultz the bag and bring back Croft. Yeah, I agree, Andrew, with that. I think Croft is a solid number 2. And then if you give Schultz the bag, you bring back Croft, I'm hoping to see a guy in the 4th or 5th round you can develop, and then hopefully you can replace Croft, because Croft's not a guy you can necessarily rely on. But I think Croft as a number 2 for next year is fine. Develop a guy, and then maybe, 2 years you bring back Croft as a 3, or he's gone, and then hopefully the guy steps up to be the number 2. Sorry, I'm itching my nose a lot. I don't know what the hell's going on. People will give me shit for that. LDT earned a starting job, says Pyro's legend. I don't think he's earned a starting job. I think, like, I'm not locked in with LDT being the right guard next year. Has he put himself in a position to compete for that job, depending on what happens in free agency in the draft? Yes. Like, I think him coming in, people automatically assume, okay, he's a good backup for next year. I think if they're not to land the big fish, the Connor Williams, the Sheriff, whoever you may prefer, and Jensen in free agency, and you don't take an Evan Neal in the first round, or you don't take a Kenyon Green or whoever it may be with that Seattle pick, if you trade down, whatever, and you bring in a 2nd, 3rd round guy, does LDT have the chance to compete with that guy and start? Yes, but earned it. We're bar none. He's the starter next year. I can't say that. I think I just I skipped ahead in the chat really quick. Sign John Beck to be a part of the staff. So we'll see 51% in terms of Zach Wilson working out, or get the fuck out. That's great. Sign John Beck to be a part of the staff permanently. Yeah, that's a question that they have, because when they first brought him in, like, he has his own, like, QB school type stuff. So is he going to ditch all of his other clients to be the Jets quarterback coach? It was a question that they had when he was brought in. And now recently there was some quote out there that kind of was a question if he's coming back or not, which you'd assume with the progress Wilson made. Some of it was John Beck. He's his personal QB coach. He's going back to train with him in Utah in the offseason, they said today or yesterday. So I would love to bring him back 100%. John says, I'm excited for the overall continuity on offense. Great teams usually have a core of guys. Yeah. And a lot of people are just looking to replace guys and trade guys, don't bring back Barrios, get rid of Connor McGovern. Like there is something to continuity 100%. So I agree with that. Jets should trade for Calvin Ridley. Yeah, I'm definitely way behind. KT just here to say, I love the content, make me a better football fan and better Jets fan. Appreciate that, KT. Make sure to check out the film review every week, multiple hours. John Beck needs a lot of credit. Yes. Yeah, Ben. John Beck, and I talk about a lot in the last episode. If you guys didn't watch it, I talk a lot about like how he likes to block certain techniques in terms of like guys cheating to overtake, playing screws to screws, 3 steps, extend and out. Like I talk about a lot of that stuff in the reviews. So you should go check that out. But he does deserve a lot of trust. Like, listen, people showed him obviously in the beginning of the year that offensive line struggled. The Panthers game was one of the worst offensive line performances you'll ever see for the most part. But to have the last couple of games, Feeney come in, GVR come in, Adoga come in at certain points and playing extended reps, for them to not look like an absolute shit show and for the most part on the ground actually play really well. Like the last game against the Jags, they were killing on the ground. And then this game, whatever they averaged, let's say off the top of my head, probably like 4.5 yards per carry against the Bucs. Like they've been playing well. So you have to give John Beck credit for that, obviously. And that gives you faith going into 2022 about the depth of this offensive line, because a lot of people were concerned. But listen, like GVR, beginning of the year, trust me, sometimes he's absolutely dreadful. But him and Feeney as backup center guard, you could do worse. I really want another backup guard to kind of supplement that, because past that, like Isaiah Williams, not about it. And then with having Adoga and Connor McDermott, I'm okay with Adoga being like the 4, but having McDermott be like the primary backup tackle, you cannot have that, especially with a guy like Becton. So teams we need weapons, tactical nukes incoming. Yeah, I think there's going to be an upgrade at right guard or a potential upgrade at right guard, but then you're going to see the weapons of tight end and receiver at some point. The offseason coming already started with the trade for takes with Ridley. It's a conversation because people are bringing it up. Cut Adoga. I don't know if they cut him. I think he's a decent like 4th string. Like I said, there's a difference between 4th string and primary backup, swing tackle, starter. I think people talk about Mims too. Mims, I'm not kind of at the point with Mims where like I'm okay bringing him back, but to a certain extent. Like if people are going to offer me like low ball me with like a 6th or 7th round pick, I'm not doing it. If it's a 5th round pick, I'm considering it. Mims, the last couple of weeks with, obviously go through it again, with Moore being out, with Davis being out, with Crowder being out, and your primary receivers are Cole, Jeff Smith, and Barrios, and he still can't get time. That says a lot about what they think about this guy. And he has proven absolutely nothing this offseason, preseason. Yeah, he came in versus the Panthers and got a 46-yard catch and everybody lost their fucking minds. Look at the play again. It was a blown coverage and he caught the ball. Like every single player on the roster should have been able to do that. Connor McDermott could have done that. Like it wasn't anything crazy. So people went nuts about that, but it deserves context. It's not like he boxed out JC Jackson and one-handed catch, caught it. Like what are we talking about here? I don't think we should add any more than one O-line. Starter continuity is key for the line of the season, says Iowan Jets fan. I agree. I think McGovern's back. He's been playing at least as an average center this year. Obviously, ABT's been great. You have Becton, you have Fant. You bring up that primary backup tackle. And then again, you either look to bring in that big fish and to draft your free agency to take LDT's spot, or you bring in a guy in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round who competes with him or learns and takes over his spot next year. But LDT has been this is an overstep, like a revelation for the running game. He's been really, really good. So, but he hasn't earned the spot yet because it's been too small of a sample size to me. A good guard away from a good O-line. LDT isn't that. Not sure if Nani has looked into free agents. Thoughts on James Daniels or Mike Gronkowski? I know James Daniels is a really good zone fit. I'm not sure about Mike Gronkowski or whatever, but I could, again, bring in one of those guys, let him compete with LDT. And if you have LDT, GVR, Feeney as your primary backup interior offensive lineman, I'm cool with it. Adoga, and then you bring in that 3rd tackle. Are right tackles under less stress than left tackles? I wouldn't think so, but I'm curious if you all professionals know there's anything injury benefit moving back into left tackle versus right tackle. No, it's the only thing you'd say, like, oh, if it's like a load bearing injury on your left leg, like if it was it the left knee or right knee, like, okay, the left leg, you want less pressure off it because obviously you're exploding off your right leg. A lot of that force is getting landed into your left leg. Could it be a benefit? Yeah, sure. But at the same time, with that being said, okay, now you're on the right side. Now you're exploding off that leg that's injured. So is it worse to explode off that leg that's injured, or is it worse for it to be the weight bearing leg? Like it's and I to be completely honest, like the argument with like right tackle, left tackle, minus the fact that it's the blind side. Yes, I get that, but people automatically assume that left tackle is so much important. It's a teeny bit more important, but there are plenty, like Tristan Wirfs makes hell of an impact at right tackle. And the primary edge rushers rush off the right side, which means the left tackle. It's not always true. It's not true a lot of the time. Like TJ Watt, ton of reps on against the right tackle. Von Miller, ton of reps against the right tackle. Like there's guys are so flexible, they attack either side. Like you're not just gonna play the good rushers as a left tackle. So keep moving on. LDT. Oh, how am I behind? Something's weird here. Mims needs to watch a lot of soccer over the winter. Next year, he can run on the field, bum a cornerback, and fall down. Dude, yeah, and Mims too. Like with the whole mental thing, whatever it is. Like if he was on the field and all these storylines were surrounding him, and he was still showing the flashes he showed last year against the Chargers, against the Dolphins, against the Pats, I would be okay. Like I'd be cool with moving him into next year and hoping that he takes that leap. But like you watch him on the field, he's not even running routes the same. Like his routes are lazy. He does not look to do anything at the line. He looks to get physical with guys, box them up, and then kind of like almost like bump cut them, like basically just bump them before it cuts. It's literally what it's called. It's pretty simple. Instead of actually trying to run a route, dip his inside shoulder, stack a guy, or stair step, as I talk about in film shows, and use his physicality to break. Like he's not doing any of that. He pretty much just runs to his break point, gets physical with the guy, tries to break off. Like he's doing nothing. It's been really bad for Mims. Gesicki would add 0 unpredictability. Verge says, yeah, Gesicki's not a fit. That's just not going to happen. I can almost guarantee it's not going to happen. Sig's inside. I really want Hamilton. Yeah, I'm more on the Hamilton train than other people are. Again, if you can guarantee me he's going to be a very, very good safety, like he's that generational prospect. And again, I mentioned on Ryan's show, generational to me means like Derwin James without the injury problems. Like I'm not Jamal Adams, not generational. Lee Hooker, not generational. Like there's not a lot of generational guys out there. If he's truly generational, if you can get an uninjured Derwin James in your team, I think Derwin James is a little bit more of a box player, where Colin Hamilton's a little bit more of a not like a deep safety, but he can play deep safety more than Derwin James can. If you can get that type of guy, like what? Like we're gonna bitch about that, and we rather reach for a guy like whoever it may be, again depending on how I like the film, like an Evan Neal or whoever it is, who is a solid prospect, but not generational. Like is it worth it to skip on Kyle Hamilton? Not in my opinion. So, Yoshi says he likes Uzuma, Mo Alley Cox. We don't get Schultz. Yeah, those are two good names. Yoshi, I didn't even think of those two guys. Uzuma from the Bengals, right? He's relatively young too. Mo Alley Cox he seems like a pretty thick guy, so you'd hope he can block. Again, I have to look into that. But I want at least something in free agency. Like you can't go into the draft with nothing at tight end, nothing at linebacker, nothing at safety. Those are my 3 non-negotiables going into the draft. So if it was a Uzuma, Mo Alley Cox, okay, then I'm pretty much not guaranteeing, but like requesting a tight end in the first 4 rounds if you bring in one of those guys, because they're low end 1s, 2s. You bring another guy, then you have like a couple of 2s. Okay, it's better than having Ryan Griffin and Daniel Brown and whoever else taking a ton of reps. So that'd be pretty. You just can't do that to Zach Wilson next year, especially considering how much it's valued in the system. Somebody mentioned, okay, yeah, there's hold on, let me move up. Oh yeah, I am way behind. Hold on, I'm trying to find where I was. Hold on. Okay, I might have lost some stuff. I'm sorry if I lost some stuff. It like kind of refreshed and lost some stuff. I thought I can go all the way to the top. Westco at tight end 1. I want to see this for years. No. Fullback, him and Bowden. Okay, if he's gonna be your 4th guy, you have him at 4. You have Bowden as your fullback. You want to have some versatility, those guys, sure. But and while Westco against the Jaguars had an absolutely depleting block, he also completely screwed up a should-be touchdown to Tevin Coleman because he wasn't ready for the snap. And based on where the defense was, if he just pushed vertical, which was the design of the play, Coleman's in for a walk-in touchdown. He just completely blew it. So Njoku is better than Schultz, better blocker than Schultz. Again, I'm not going to take a hard stance on that because I can't tell you. I'll watch that in the offseason. But Njoku, again, you're looking at guys like Odell Beckham, semi-thriving with the Rams. Baker Mayfield sucks. Like he's not good. Like he's playing with the number 1 rushing game in the league, at least in my opinion, in terms of their offensive line combo with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Like ridiculous running front there. You had Jarvis Landry, you had Njoku, you had Austin Hooper. You have who else? They have a ton of guys on that team. Even a guy who's like the 3rd string receiver, 4th string receiver. He's pretty good. Like he's not a good quarterback. And I think the Browns kind of made out well in terms of seeing that he sucks this year, so they don't have to pay him. Like falsely pay him a lot of money. He's average at best. I'm not a big fan of Baker. So does Njoku come in here as the one and prove himself with his kind of freak athleticism? I'd be cool with that. And you probably get him for a lesser price than Schultz based on everybody's kind of inflated opinion of Schultz right now. Thomas Bowden's a very good fullback. Yeah, but Bowden's been playing better. No to Ridley, Michael Thomas. No, again, Ridley's already kind of on that line of being too kind of like mentally unstable for me. Michael Thomas, absolutely no way. I'm not doing that. Do you think Quincy has earned one of the outside linebacker spots, or can he be a reliable stopgap? Quincy Williams, I think he's earned a primary backup role. Like, is that going to be a little bit maybe crazy to some fans? Maybe, but he has way too many mental lapses in coverage and way too many missed tackles for him to be reliable starting outside linebacker. Like next year, if they bring in whoever it may be, what's the name? Like Chad Momo, whatever, like the 2nd round, or they bring in a Jayon Brown, and then like Williams is like the 3, but typically the Jets play like a 5-2, and he comes off when it's a 5-2. I don't think you can rely on him as a consistent like 80% snap guy. He'll be seeing 30-40% snaps. Okay. But I think he's a solid backup on a good team. He's not an ideal starter in any way. I want a Brandon Marshall type in the red zone. Yeah, that's exactly what freaking Denzel Mims was supposed to be, but he fucked everything up. Mike Williams, people are saying over Ridley. The only problem with Mike Williams is people talk about injuries. Mike Williams has been consistently injured. You can't rely on him. I'm not on the Mike Williams train. And for, again, square peg round hole. That's more of a vertical Adam Gase offense that he fits in. This offense, a lot of yak, getting open quickly. Mike Williams is not a fit here. So I'm not on the Mike Williams train, the Gesicki train. Gerald Everett, looking at him a little bit. Mims and a 4th rounder from Ridley. Yeah, that's absolutely not going to happen. Let's get Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is not going to come here. What's good, Joe from Jay? What's up? Treylon Burks is a beast. How about Juju in the slot? Again, another guy who is a head case, guy who's, was it the Cowboys logo who he was dancing on and taking pictures of? Like, no, I'm absolutely out on Juju. The guy's overrated in my opinion. And while he's a good fit though, because he's a good yak guy, I don't want a head case. So absolutely no way. We need to know about how to ball at X, Y, and Z. Hey, no to Ridley. Yeah, Godwin just went down to an ACL tear. Yeah, that sucks because he would be one of my upper tier targets because he can get the yak. He can play vertically. He's a big body guy for the red zone. Unfortunately, you tear your ACL at week 15. It's going to be hard to pay him $17 million a year. Really, like Hamilton, if he can be Derwin Minka level. Yeah, exactly, Mike. Like if you could say he's Derwin Minka, and I know people hate Jamal Adams, but Jamal Adams level in the first couple of years, I'll take him at 4 every day. JD not taking Ridley. Okay, I'm still way behind. Damn, Godwin would have helped this unit so much. I think he's a top 10 receiver. I think he's a top 10 receiver in this league. Yeah, and if not top 15, like he's a monster. He's really, really good. 5.5 to 6 sounds good. Agree. Oh, we're in the Barrios range now. 5.5 to 6 is pretty spot on. Appreciate that. I saw PFF, which again I don't really give a shit about, but they have an article with guys' projected contracts, top 75 free agents. I'm going to click on it. Clicked on it, and I think their range for Fatukasi was like $8.7 million. And I've been saying 9 on this show for literally months. So Barrios for $3 million. Someone else would give him over 7. Yeah, I'm at the range where like 6.5 is my top. I think it's me 5.56. Again, backup slot, backup gadget when Moore comes back. A good returner, but he's not in an ideal offense with Davis back, with Moore back, with another guy in the draft or free agency. Like let's say it is like let's say it's even I don't know. Gallup didn't get injured. And it's Gallup, Davis, Schultz, Moore, Michael Carter. Like, what is he, like 6th, 7th, 8th on your food chain? You're going to pay him $7 million? I can't. Justin Hardy's a penalty. Yeah, Justin Hardy's been a little bit disappointing. I hear Ocho Cinco's available. Barrows, 4 years, 22 million, 13 million guaranteed. Okay, so you're looking at like $5.4 million, $13 million. I think that's a fair contract. I do. Hopefully the Jets sign him before he even hits free agency. That's what you hope. Good point. Not to Busted Knuckles, William. There's a ton of names. Sun Moon Rise. There's a ton of names in who I've never seen before. 1 and 2 who haven't been here in a little bit. So I appreciate you guys being more pumped up for the offseason, more pumped up that the Jets beat the Bucks. I'm probably some of you guys are bounced by this point, but I gotta see. Salary cap will jump big next year. That's true. Heel Nani has entered the billion. Yep. He is sometimes. It is what it is. Imagine Barrios goes to New England. Yeah, that's my one concern. Like the Danny Woodhead situation again with him. And I liked him more than Woodhead. But again, at this point, I really, really watch football. Heel Nani with the F5 on concrete. Stanley Man says JD is not going to give Barrios more than $5.5 million a year. He's no better than a 5th wide receiver and an occasional gadget guy who. Yeah, that's kind of blunt to say like that, Stanley, but it is. He's no better than a 5th receiver, maybe 4th, occasional gadget guy who can also return kicks and punts very, very well. But with that being said, no. Crowder really leads the Jets with 3 years in receptions. I don't know exactly what that means in terms of maybe it was us talking, but Crowder was the last couple of years, maybe not this year. Crowder was a top 10 slot guy. Like he's a good slot receiver. He's not a great fit in this offense, but he's a good. Well, you guys are praising guys who have more drops than catches. Stone Crow says, I don't know who that is. Jalil says there's a lot of receivers you can do with Barrios. Says I agree. Blue just hates Barrios and kittens and babies. Dude, it's just, I'm being truthful. Again, people came here and they thought that, what's his name was going to be great. Greg Dortch told you he sucked. People thought James Carpenter was good because a couple highlight plays that a bunch of big wig media guys put up and he sucked. Like Calvin Beecham was great. It's like, I got to try to tell the truth the best I could. Ty Johnson is a mystery man. He breaks some fine runs. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not big on Ty Johnson. Ty Johnson's like a 4th running back to me, if not off the roster. Like, yeah, he had a couple of good runs last week. One of them was opened up by the offensive line, but he has no vision. He has no patience. He can't catch balls. He can't pass protect. Like he's not a good running back. I'm not a big fan of him at all. Even though he runs hard, cool, it looks cool, but I'm not there. Worst case for 4 is easily Fib, Hutch, Hamilton. Yeah, George, I agree with that. That's my worst case scenario. If I can come away with one of those 3 guys, I'm happy. I have to look into Carl Office still. Maybe I can be happy with him, but right now it's one of those 3 guys I want it for. Very, very early in my process though. I talked about LDT before. Can we get at least a 5th for Mims near Jets Florida S? That's what I think the max is for Mims right now, which is crazy. Considering what he was drafted as, a guy who a lot of us thought should be a late 1st round pick. He fell he fell behind guys like Pittman and Van Jefferson and T. Higgins, and people are like, what the hell's going on? But maybe there was some leaks about him at Baylor not working as hard, which would be obviously a concern. So Douglas traded down, obviously didn't want him at the spot he was at, like what was like 38, whatever, traded down to like 47, 48, 49, whatever the hell it was. And took him, but maybe that was the concern. Maybe that's why he fell a little bit. But if you could take him for a 5th, that's my lowest right now. If you could take Mims for a 5th, I just don't think he's going to work out this coaching staff. Do I think he has more potential elsewhere? Fresh start, more valuable in a 5th? Fine. But for the Jets team at this current time, especially if they bring in Allen Robinson, whoever it will be, or a top 2 round receiver, then Mims is your 4, your 5 at very best. And that's not even considering that he's playing behind Barrios, behind Smith, behind Vincent Smith, behind who the hell is number 14? What the hell is it? Like Montgomery? Like he has no shot here. So a 5th round pick, I would run away with it right now. It sucks, but because I was really, really high on him. I want Joe to trade back and get more picks. Yeah, Tommy, I'm kind of with that, just with the 2nd. I'm not with the 4th. Again, if it's Hamilton, one of those guys, I'm taking him. 7th right now, based on where I'm at, unless it's like, again, maybe it's if Carl Lawson or Neal falls, but let's say the first picks are, obviously Thibodeau, Hutchinson, Neal, Hamilton, Karlaftis, and another guy, and you're sitting there at 7-8. And at that point, I don't see anybody I would love there. Again, early on, then I would be down with a trade back. But maybe I fall in love with Linderbaum. Maybe I fall in love with Jameson Williams. Again, I just don't. And with the receivers, I don't think there's that true number one Jamar Chase, Julio Jones type player to be worth taking at 7. I know a lot of people fall in love with Jameson Williams, speed and all the stuff, but then you see the people who are more for Olave, you see the more people who are for Garrett Wilson, you see the people who are for whoever else. So is there that legit guy? I don't know. Back then played right tackle in college. That's what we said before. The can't pedal. Eagle. Just watch his film. Only on line that doesn't hold. I don't know who you're talking about. I'm talking about Neil. Number one line freaks list for a reason. I don't know if you're talking about Becton or Neil, but Neil again, I got to watch. But the concern I see with him is the fact that he is heavy-handed, plays over his feet, and he's not laterally mobile. So that's slightly a concern. Carl Loftus is who I want. Yeah, let's see. Tony G, slow Loftus. Yeah, I gotta watch. Some people are out on the whole Carl Loftus thing. And again, for me, like just knowing how fans think, knowing that they most likely missed out on Thibodeau and Hutchinson, are they going to try to pump up Carl Loftus in their head and make him better than he really is? So, I'm just have a hypothetical situation. You wouldn't have taken Pitts as high as he went last year, Nania. Oh, that's in terms of, the only positions I'm not taking in the top 5 are running back, punter, kicker. Other than that, I would take anything. Like people talk about, oh, well, guard, you can't take guard. I raise you Quentin Nelson, like a all pro player, any position is worth a top 5 pick to me. Tight end, same thing. Pitts, what does he have? 1,000 yards this year? Probably going to be a top 5 tight end next year. If he was sitting at 4, do I take him this year? Hell yes. Yes, I do. Easily. Are Hutchinson and Thib guaranteed gone before the Jets pick James and Philly? Yes. I don't think it's guaranteed because maybe the Lions, maybe the Jaguars fall in love with the tackle. Like the Jaguars in recent history poured a first-round pick into Chason. They poured a first-round pick into Josh Allen. Do they think that protecting, the new staff that comes in, protecting Lawrence is the number one thing, and they draft Neal? Like it could happen. Could that happen with the Texans? You can't guarantee the draft. Everybody guarantees a draft, and people fall 3-4 rounds where that player was guaranteed to be the last round he'd go in. Like, oh, this guy's gonna be a second-round pick, guaranteed he falls into the 6th. People are like, what? And nobody ever talks about it. People delete the tweets. So draft is always wild. So I can see it happening that Thibodeau or Hutchinson, probably more Hutchinson than Thibodeau, fall to 4. And if they do, you jump on them. But it's not very likely. It's based on what I'm thinking right now, what I've seen. Yeah, Matt Loviano. This for me right now, if you could tell me that in whatever order, I think it would more be Hamilton at 4 and Karlaftis at 7. I would be that's my number 1 and 2 right there. Or maybe instead of Karlaftis, it's Neal. But that would be ridiculous. Those are my top 2 guys in terms of 4 and 7. I don't think Hamilton, if he is generations, will fall into 7. He could. That's for sure, but I don't think he does. Barrios is worth no more than $5 to $6 million a year. Yeah, I agree, BC. It is what it is. The Kobe Dean at 7, is that the Georgia linebacker? So the thing again, I'm not taking shots at anybody because I don't know who watches what. And Krabby, I've never seen you, I don't think. The thing I find with especially national championship games, college playoffs, a guy will make a play or two. The announcers are brown nosing him, and then people fall in love with him. So from what I've seen, I think he's a super athletic guy. But at 7 right now, I'm not 100% sure. But again, I'm really, really cautious when people fall in love with people who just made plays on national television, who I know people are going to be watching. That always happens. So yeah, how do we let them convert a 3rd and 20? Again, this is for the people. I wasn't even involved in the conversation on Twitter, but I got tagged in it by Scott because Scott loves to tag me and shit like that. That was on Brandon Eccles. Like Brandon Eccles, while he's been, solid and he's let's be honest, unless obviously throwing out the Richard Shermans and all these guys like the 5th or 6th round, like considering actual value you expect in the 6th round, Brandon Eccles is a home run of a pick. Home run. Like even if he's a 4th or a 5th corner, home run of a pick considering the actual, expected value. With that being said, people are wanting to start him. No, absolutely not. That was on Eccles. That play was completely on Eccles. And I'll show you in the review. His eyes are not where they should have been. He let the receiver attack his blind spot off the top of my head, and he got beat. In a situation you can absolutely not get beat by. So he's been good. He's not a starter. Absolutely not. But that was 100% on Eccles, that play. Wilson saved us for catastrophe. We need an inside linebacker more than anything. It's the biggest need, but not the first thing to address all the same. Listen, like the difference between inside linebacker and outside linebacker in a 4-3, 5-2, it's really not that crazy different. It's a lot different in a 3-4. So if a guy is an inside linebacker in a 3-4, let's just say at Georgia, wherever the school is, can he play outside linebacker in a 4-3? Yes. Now obviously if he's a slow plotting linebacker, David Harris type, can he play Will in a 4-3? No, obviously there's better fits, but we'll see. Elam should be cornerback 2 in this draft. Unfortunately, he's more of a press man. Alex Worm says, yeah, it's really like Elam, Booth, Gardner, and Stingley right now, right? Like the top 4, top of my head. More than 3 is right. 4 million. Okay, we're talking about Joe keeps it real. Tony G, I appreciate that. I get a lot of shit sometimes, but again, 145 people in here. Just go watch the film reviews, and if you want to debate me on a play, I would welcome it. And I'm not blowing smoke up my ass or anything like that. But with that being said, people usually enjoy them, and there's people who are smarter than me out there, 100%. But go watch the film reviews. I don't try to, it is what it is. Greg Dortch, he was great. He sucked. He was terrible in college. I said that right off the bat. And people are, oh my God, he's going to be Jets slot receiver. Jalen Marshall, he's great. Because I saw him make a play in open practice. He's so good. They hate him because we have Salah or Zach and LaFleur. I'm not sure. We're talking about maybe the New York media. I'm not sure. Can we talk about how the run defense was actually good versus the Bucks? How did that happen? They stacked the box. Foley Fatukasi made a ton of plays. Mosley made a ton of plays. And they didn't really, again, I have to go back and like chart it if I really wanted to. The thing that the Bucks seemingly did, again, this is top of my head. I would have to go back and watch. I don't like saying stuff I'm not 100% certain on, so I will preface it. It seemed like to me they were running more zone and some more duo. And when you run zone against a 4-3, 5-2 penetrating front, that's the weakness of zone is penetrators. Well, it could be zone could be actually, you can have 2 gap pursuits, the weakness of 2. But zone runs versus Jets front is a lot more conducive to them being successful, where those gap runs, those trap runs, those wham plays can be pretty hard to play against. And off the top of my head, they're running a lot more zone, which I think they play a lot better against. But a lot of teams after the Falcons game just completely took advantage of gap runs versus the Jets. So when it comes to Wilson, people just look at the box score and don't watch how he looks every week. His confidence before luck better these last few games. Yeah, again, the Jaguars game, and people feel I'm crazy for this. Go watch it. The Jaguars game, I was much more happy with him than Titans game. Titans game, missed the throw to Davis Ice game, missed the throw to Ryan Griffin. He almost threw that near pick, not the one that Corey Davis slipped on. I think that was actually a pick. But he almost threw another near pick over the middle. The deep ball to Corey Davis, he rolls out to the right. It's a Yankee concept. He's just going to have one post, one over. Typically read the post and the over. Sees the post. The over is wide open from Keelan Cole. Literally nobody by him. Skips the over, throws a ball in double coverage to Corey Davis, and he got lucky, very, very lucky that it was not picked off, and instead it was a pass interference. But he should have thrown that ball to Cole every single day of the week, and he didn't do it. And I was not impressed with that play. But people were going out there, oh, he drew a 55-yard pass interference play, when in fact, again, the result is good. The process was bad. So there's a lot of process versus results playing that game that was not good, where these last games, the process has been very, very good. I'm very encouraged with Zach Wilson the last couple of weeks. Facts on these stat watchers, they stay hating though. Yeah, they do. Again, it's easy to go to Google and type in Zach Wilson stats. Oh, 100 yards, you sucked. Okay, like fine. If that's how shallow minded you're going to be, then that's why I don't really interact a lot on Twitter. I don't really follow a lot of people. Like I try to talk to people in here. Joe Galizia. Okay, I'm not going to remember that, Mike, but Galizia. Can I call you Mike Gal? I don't know why people hate on Zach. He's the most hated rookie QB. Oh, you know what? I want to ask Donnie this, but it's just a question I can throw to you guys too. Like the last month of the season, and I'm not trying to be biased. I think people who've supported me for a while can say that he has been the best quarterback the last month. Like the most quarterback who I have the most faith in going forward. Trevor Lawrence, listen, it's a shitty situation, but he has not shown as many flashes as Wilson. Even that Jaguars game, people say he's better. Again, I call them stat humpers. The stat humpers went to the box score. Trevor Lawrence is better than Zach Wilson. He was not better than Zach Wilson in that game. Absolutely no way. Justin Fields, he just got benched for Andy Dalton. He's not even playing right now. Trey Lance hasn't obviously shown anything. And then Mac Jones, while he's in a great system, he makes the 2-yard throw, he makes the 3-yard throw. They're great. Look at what he did versus the Bills when he actually had to put the ball up in the air. And yes, the Pat system is great, all this stuff. But can you depend on this guy to win a Super Bowl? Like, is he it? I think he's going to be average Kirk Cousins level at best. I just don't see him being a top tier quarterback. So maybe it's biased, but moving forward, Zach Wilson is my number one guy right now. And that's crazy to say after how bad, and somebody asked this question before, his turnaround from the first 12 weeks of the season to now is absurd. But if you had to draft right now, Zach Wilson or Mac Jones, who's the number one quarterback, who are you drafting? Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson? It's a legitimate conversation. I'm taking Zach Wilson based on what they've shown the last couple of weeks. Now, obviously, replaying it all, Trevor Lawrence goes to the Jets and Zach Wilson goes to the Jaguars, et cetera, et cetera. Sure, but like, you have to be so much more happy with Zach Wilson right now than those other guys. Mac Jones, if he has to come back in a game, he's just not good. He's solid, but he doesn't have some of the stuff that Zach Wilson has. I would like to bring back Moses as a swing backup. Swolsey says, I just don't think you're going to get it, Swolsey. Looking at a guy who, with a reduced cap last year with the whole COVID situation, really late in the offseason was cut. He got brought in for $3.5 million. He's going to get, in my opinion, at least $6-7 million. I don't think the Jets bring him back at that price to be a backup tackle. I don't think he wants to bring him back, be a backup tackle, because looking at the contract with the Jets, okay, we'll sign you to 1 year, $6 million. Okay, backup tackle. Okay, Jaguars, hey, we'll sign you for 1 year, $7 million. You're going to start for 1 year. Okay, what's the better shot to make future earnings? I just can't see him being back. If you get Icom, LDT becomes the ultimate death piece. Yeah, I would be ecstatic with LDT as a death piece. Cam Clark, love them coming out of Charlotte. Injuries, man. I really, really had a lot of faith in Cam Clark to be a successful guard. Hopefully he could be, if he could step up to be that starting right guard, I'll be ecstatic. I've really, really liked his tape. JC Jackson be the number one priority by a vast margin. This can fully transform the D line and the D in one move. Yeah, but then who's playing safety? I get that. I would love JC Jackson too. But then you have Ashton Davis and, Elijah Riley as your safeties. That's not ideal. I think safety is a bigger need than corner. Like corner, they've been holding it down a little bit. But tight safety, it's been abysmal for the most part. So they need safety, they need linebacker, they need tight end to me. What about keeping Denzel Mims? I would keep him, but if they offer me a 5th round pick, I'm not keeping him. Mims is Clark for me. I would love Mims to succeed too. Let's thumbs up the video. Yes, Swolsey. I never say that, but I'll say I'm close friend. I'm good friends with Ryan. I do a lot of his shows, and he'll have like 100 likes in 4 seconds. I think it's because he gives away shirts. Maybe I have to start doing that. But yeah, thumbs up would be appreciated. I don't ask for it, but I like that. Good thing. I'm hearing Hamilton get hurt a lot too. Yeah, I know he's had a recent injury, but I got to look into what the hell is I talking about? The chat bounced again. Damn it. Okay, we're back at Cam Clark. I lost something though. Saquon Barkley has 1 year left. He's been ruined by the Giants and Darnold by Gase. Hopefully trades his blue for jet screen. Yeah, unless it's for a very minimal contract. We're so far away. We don't need Saquon Barkley for a year or two. We need a lot more things than that. Swolsey says he's been a huge Mims supporter, but his play is beyond lazy and effortless. Yeah, it's been lazy. By the way, like people, I'm going to look into StreamYard because I know you can pull up comments. I want to do that. So I'm going to highlight so you guys can read it too. So I don't have to read everything. I'll look into that. And then again, for 130 people still in here, I appreciate you. Last year we did in the offseason just one show a month. Again, this is not the main crux of the website. It's not the main crux of me. It's film. But we moved it to bi or every other week. So I'm going to do it at least every other week. I'm thinking about trying every other week with Kyle and then myself, 6 to 7 o'clock, go on StreamYard. If viewers want to call in, if they want to join in, cool. We'll talk about random ass shit. We'll do a bunch of stupid mock drafts. We'll just talk for an hour about complete bullshit. I don't even care. But if you guys want that, I think I not have to do it, but I would like to do it. I just gotta kind of feel that out. Because that's off top. Because typically we talk film here. Some people don't like to necessarily call and talk film. It's just for whatever the reason may be. What about drafting a linebacker? Yes, they need to, unless they sign 2 in free agency. Linebacker is a very, very top need for me. So top 3 rounds. Hamilton injuries, Jets gang, I gotta look into it. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I've heard that it's nothing severe going forward, But if he's going to be banged up and people think he's going to be banged up in the future and he's an injury risk, then I can't do it. Baker is a Cousins game type manager. Yeah, and Cousins is safe with the ball. Baker has like 50-something picks since he's joined the league. He's like the most picks in the last couple of years out of anybody since 2018. I'm pretty sure the stat is. So Cousins can actually manage the ball. Baker is like a more risky but athletic Cousins. I would probably take Cousins in a game to win. Bus, hello, what's up? Have you watched Nakobe Dean tape? The Jets need to play that. Is Nakobe? Did I talk about Nakobe Dean before? Is that the guy from Georgia? No, I have not, but I'll look into a lot of stuff. Mims is pure lazy. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Unpopular opinion, but the Jets need to find a way to draft Jordan Davis mid-round. Yeah. So like, if any opinion on these guys in the mid-rounds, guys in the first round, guys in the second round, like I like to answer a lot or a question with based on what? Because of what somebody else said, because of actual tape, because of YouTube highlights for 5 minutes. Like I definitely like to look into stuff before I say that stuff, because I could say, hey, I freaking love Cleveland Farrell. And then I look into his shit. I'm like, oh, dude, I got to backtrack on that. That guy sucks. But a lot of people don't put in the work to know these guys. So I don't like to just say that's like, maybe he could, sure. I don't know. Juju is so rated. Yes. Twitter is ruthless. I heard there's a reason you don't really see me interacting on Twitter anymore. I'll stay on YouTube and here. What cornerback would you draft? Depends on where. If they trade down, let's say from like 7 to 12, I would right now, Gardner. I like him a lot. I like Booth. I'm scared of Stingley's injuries. And again, this is how things change. How many people in here in September would have said, oh, Stingley, number 1 pick. We got to get Stingley. Now we get Stingley. Now people are like, yeah, he might be like 3rd or 4th just based on injuries. And that happens. Supposedly Keelan Cole has been terrible in the back half of the season. Yeah, Keelan Cole has been a massive disappointment. I like Keelan Cole. Doing business, JD is like doing business with a guy on Goodfellas if you pay me. Yeah, I would not. If I was any of the team and JD's calling me, I would just hang up. I wouldn't even do it. Marshall last year. Not Jalen Marshall. I'm talking about Jalen Marshall, the receiver. Jonathan Marshall. He's been okay. He made some plays recently. Is Hamilton injury prone? Not that I've heard. I know he's an injury, but doesn't mean injury prone. Did you talk about a trade of possible Ridley to the Jets? Abraham, yes, we did early in the show. If you want to go back and listen. If not, we're kind of both for it. Or I'm for it, second and like a 5th round pick, I would do it. I think he's a legitimately number 1 receiver. A Jag, Keep Crowder and Barrios pick up 1 extra in the draft. Mims can be depth. A Jag, I don't know what Chris you're talking about, but Mims just picked 59. Oh, so they traded out from like 48 to 59. I forget exactly what happened. He traded back twice. I don't remember. Top of my head. You draft injured players in the middle rounds. Don't waste number 1 or 2 picks on injured players. Bryce Hall was injured. We got him in the 5th. Yeah. Sergeant Mike, I agree with like the guys in the later rounds for me, like typically, and obviously you don't prefer your guys to be injured. Like you want a guy who's just a diamond in the rough, obviously, but like typically guys fall. And you can have a good player who falls because of injury, or 2 because they're super raw. Like later rounds, I like raw guys. I like guys who are injured who you hope to turn around. But I like JJ. Brooks is good. People say that. Quincy Boy starter next year. He might be, but he should not be. He's a good depth piece, good locker room guy, good energy, but I'm not crazy about it. Joe going to get some bells and whistles on the film review soon. Yellow arrows and circles and zones and stuff. Yeah, I plan to. Again, website just started less than 2 years ago. We'll keep making progress into getting a new computer, getting a pen, drawing stuff, arrows. I want all that stuff 100%. It could make it a lot easier instead of moving around the screen like this and trying to show you, okay, this guy's here. You see that foot right there. You see this kick step. I want to build a circle and draw zones and do all that stuff. It'll be there. Giants should be better next year. Giants always suck. Yeah, we're keeping fan. I don't like the whole trade fan thing. Why? Like we're gonna trade good players. It just doesn't make any sense. The last one from Menzel is featuring this week. Hopefully, has a few TDs in his trade value. Yeah. The problem with this is like, oh, play Mims. You'll have the same people who say play Mims, then say, hey, Salah needs to be accountable. So where are you? Because playing Mims and Salah being accountable are not on the same wavelength. It's not at all. If he's being lazy, he's dogging it through, drills. How are you going to play him over Jeff Smith who's trying, or Barrios who's trying, or Vincent Smith who's trying? Like people will say that at 1 minute and then 2 minutes later say that Mims needs to play. It's like, how? Team in the worst shape in the future: Giants or Bears? Giants. Eagle. Giants. Bears. Didn't the Giants just aren't they bringing back their GM or something like that? So that's not a good situation. He's clearly sucked. Which, by the way, the Jaguars, I'm watching the Jaguars game because apparently they're keeping one of their top tier guys. I don't know if it's like a president, I don't know if it's GM, I don't know who it is. Again, I'm not really in tune with the Jaguars. But apparently all of their fans are going into the game and they're wearing clown costumes, and people who are not bringing clown costumes, who are not knowledgeable about it, because they're not on social media, they're bringing costumes and hair and masks for people who don't know, and they're all going to go to the game in clown stuff because they're keeping one of their top tier guys, like one of their top like executives. That is freaking great. So I cannot wait to see that. But in general, Fields has COVID. Is that why he's? Yeah, but Fields has not been impressive to me when I watch him at all. Yes, Zach is having the best finish of the season pending Sunday, showing the most improvement. Yeah, the most improvement and the most top tier play, in my opinion. Like what Mac Jones does when it's good versus what Zach Wilson did versus the Bucks, completely different ball game to me. You put Mac Jones in the Jets versus the Bucks, and it's very, very different situation. But who's in worse shape? Yeah, it's the Giants. They're a freaking mess. Like what do they have? Bradbury, who's the D tackle they drafted a couple of years ago? I like him. I can't think of like any like linebackers, safeties, corners, coaches, quarterbacks, running backs, receivers. Sterling Shepard. You know, like they don't have a quarterback. I'm not about the Giants. Giants are lost. Bears at least have a rookie quarterback that actually like a pick. Yeah, I'm okay with Fields. I definitely like Zach over Fields, but at least they have that. They have somebody who has potential, but Giants have absolutely nothing in a quarterback draft, which is ass. Which, by the way, revisiting, remember all the people in the chat who were here last year? I'm sure the people who were on my side against other people. Remember all the people in the chat? Trade down. Let Darnold play out. Where are those people? I haven't seen anybody saying we should have kept Sam Darnold. Imagine having Sam Darnold in this draft. Who are we taking? This is why exactly you don't skip on a quarterback. You can get a quarterback next year. Based on what? You see the Daniel Jones and Daniel and Haskins draft? Just get a quarterback later. They're easy to find. Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? That's why this shit's so silly. You got to think about it in the future. Like, yeah, quarterback's going to be there in the top 5. We should take him. Let's take Sam Darnold back. Stupid. Thank God Zach did not grow to 6'5". The Jags would take him, and yeah, we'd have Trevor. Switch Pinnock to safety. Yeah, I'm not about, again, Pinnock, safety, this game, didn't notice anything glaring. Jaguars game, if you watched, the broadcast looked good. The film was bad. It was not good. He was really, really late on both those throws. He made impacts on the one in the red zone. He was really late. It was cover 3 or cover 4. Opened up his hips super early. Was really late getting to it. He was lucky that Lawrence was late. The other play, same thing. Super late to get there. But because Lawrence was delayed or he had to, pressure in his face, whatever it was, he made a hit and people were ecstatic about it. But no, it was not good. This game, okay, sure, maybe he tries it out next year, but as a starting safety, we can't do that. Let's get players F that trying to switch Pinnock. Okay, that's what Jets gang saying. I didn't read the whole thing. I can see Baker being next QB for the Panthers. Steelers know that he's not a good quarterback. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what Baker's going to do because he's not going to get signed for a big contract. Appreciate the show. I remember the first time watching this was when we didn't remotely have a direction. Yeah, Carmelo, appreciate that. We're going to look at, and Mike said something else too. Hold on. Oh, Mike, other wrench Mike, never complained about more show. Yeah, we'll see. I'm going to feel it out. Have we solved the kicker position with Pinero? I hope so, but I'm not guaranteeing it. Do you feel more confident with Davis or Ridley? Like if I had to choose Corey Davis or Ridley. Corey Davis from the onset, I said was a really low end 1 or a high end 2, which I think minus the drops this year, which again, you have to look at his career, and over his career, he hasn't had a lot of drops. This year, he had a lot of drops. You think it's going to even out from, okay, middle of the pack to high. It's going to even out to middle. And when he was playing, I think he was about a high end number 2 to a solid number 2. So I think you got what you paid for him with $12.5 million. But with that being said, like you have to think about the contracts. Like, oh, he was brought in to be the number 1. Like that's the instant reaction based on what? Based on the money? Because it wasn't the money. Nelson Aguilar, who's doing absolutely nothing with the Patriots, was brought in for more money than Corey Davis. And Kenny Galladay, who did even less than both those guys for the most part, it was brought in for $19 million. So it's not like we paid him $17, $18 million. We paid him to be a number 2, a high number 2. That's pretty much what he was, minus the drops, which I think he improves next year. So I'm cool with Corey Davis, but Ridley is a legit number 1. Like I would definitely take Ridley, but now that comes into question. Like, okay, I'm not behind the scenes. What is his character like? Why did he leave? All this stuff. I don't know. what happens if Fant struggles at right tackle next year. We reassess. I think he'll be okay at right tackle. I don't think he's as good as a right tackle as he's a left tackle. Do you think CJ Mosley is worth keeping? Next year, yes, you have to keep him because he is, if you cut him, you only save like $2 million of like 17, I think. So you cannot get rid of him. Years past that, we'll see it for next year. See if he restructures. Do I think he's a 17, 16, $15 million linebacker? No, but is he 11, 12? Yeah, I think he's that. He hasn't been as good as the Ravens. CJ Mosley, but he's still been really good. So, yeah, worth keeping, but for what price? For the price that's currently on the contract? No. Mike says, thanks for another great season. Super chat. I appreciate that, Mike. I always appreciate the super chats. Joe, did you like Elijah Moore? Denzel coming better coming out of college? Probably say Elijah. I'd probably say Elijah, but I'm not gonna sit here and act like I didn't like Denzel coming out of college because watching what I did with Marcus Coleman, again, played in the NFL for 11 years, legitimate personal friend. Now, we were both really, really high on Mims. Like we thought he could be a legit number one, but he had a lot more room to grow than Elijah Moore. Where Elijah Moore, the biggest questions I had with him was route running versus press because he was working through open field a lot in Ole Miss, and getting physical with guys, off the line of scrimmage. Like I had some questions about that, but overall Elijah Moore was a lot more well-rounded, a lot more polished coming into the NFL. So I would say I liked Moore as a prospect day one, but Mims had a higher ceiling to me. Mims, I thought legitimately could be like an AJ Green type if he hit his ceiling, but obviously guys have plenty of talent. Jamarcus Russell, whoever is out there, if you can't put it together mentally, mental is 95% of the game. If you can't get it, then it is what it is. Aha, sounds from the Darnold people. Yeah, there's no Darnold people anymore. I remember fighting with them every single live stream for months. Joe, why aren't people acting like Beckham wasn't a top 10 left tackle in his rookie season? And he's toast just because of poor training camp against Lawson GVR being bad. Yeah, because he rolled up on him. It's because people are about what have you done for me lately. And while Beckham, I am concerned with the injuries. Listen, the most simple thing is to say, for all the training camp struggles, one, the offseason weight thing, he came in, he was the most yoked up 370 I've ever seen in my life. Like he was cut for 370. So that's bullshit. He came in out of shape. Jets, I've seen some questions about his like mental makeup. Okay, a little bit of concern with that. Concern with injuries, sure. I know he got rolled up on, but again, when your joints are bearing 370 pounds, it is a little. So you have to be injured, or you have to be worried about that off the bat. But simply, year one in training camp, he had no training camp. He struggled against Jordan Jenkins. He came in as a left tackle the entire season, played top 15 at the minimum level. Maybe you can argue for 10. Second year, struggles against Carl Lawson, comes in for one game against the Panthers, struggled a little bit. So now he sucks. If he comes in and plays healthy next year, do I think he's a top half of the league tackle? Top 10 tackle? I think so. But it's what have you done for me lately? That's just how it is with football. So you're saying Pinnock's first game at safety wasn't good, but he looked better in his second game, right? Yeah, Richter, but he wasn't targeted as much. I didn't really notice him a lot, which is a positive, but he wasn't really targeted because the thing with Tom Brady is a lot of stuff is short. So you don't really get to see the safeties in action as much. What's your opinion on going after Calvin Ridley? I said this before, depending on the mental makeup, trade a 2 and a 5. I'll be cool. I'll be cool with it. Just got me a Chevy Camaro. Wow, this car's a beast. I love. Those are nice cars. Yeah, he owes us a discount. And Mosa, dude, like he got the MVP of the team or whatever. He came out and said, listen, like this is my recruiting statement. Like, don't come here if you don't want to lose. Come here if you want to be a part of changing this around. And again, you get these guys back next year. You pour all this capital into the team. If the Jets are lesser than a 7-8 win team next year, I'm very, very disappointed. Very, very disappointed. Joe's rumored that Daniel Hunter potentially wants out of Minnesota. Is it Hunter or is it Griffin who had some mental issues, right? Hunter's like what, 27, 28 Jets hub. I would be down with it. Like if you want to trade it again, it's all pending his mental makeup and his age. Do you think Moore can hit wide receiver or is he more of a high end number 2? I think he has wide receiver 1 potential. I think the problem with saying wide receiver 1 is people automatically assume wide receiver 1, DK Metcalf, Julio Jones, Megatron, Randy Moss. It's not like that anymore. Like you could be a guy who's 5'9", 5'10", and be a number 1. Antonio Brown, perfect example, obviously without being crazy, but he could be a number 1. Like next year, just going to next year, I think he's the number 1 highly more targeted guy, and Davis is more of the 2. Zach just called the 4th and goal audible to Jets fans. Hit the thumbs up. I legit wonder what you could have got for Mims if they trade him early on. Yeah, more than a fifth. More than a fifth. Smash. Beckman's too mellow. Got to drop the bong. Yeah. So the thing with and I hate to be like the old man, get off my lawn type stuff, but when I see Beckman like on social media all the time and like some of his posts, it maybe just me, it turns me off a little bit, but that's just kind of, and I'm not. It's like the younger generation. Like, he's 23, I'm 28. Like, but not the biggest fan of like kind of his personality. But who cares if he's great? Would you do an ABT package and move up and get a third first rounder to select wide receiver in his class? Eagle, no. Why? ABT is he's one of the top guards in the NFL right now. Like, and he's a really good rookie. Like, what? I'm not talking about he's not freaking like top. I'm talking about for rookies. Like, he's already a top half of the league left guard. Why are we going to trade him? No, absolutely not. That is not going to happen. He's worth more than a first round pick this year. We traded up for him, and he's a 14th pick last year. He's worth more than a 14th pick. How do I learn to scout some prospects? I try to watch your videos and learn, by the way. Keep watching the videos. Ask me questions. Email me, joe.blewett@jetsexback.com. I always tell people when you're first starting off, read Pat Kerwin's Take Your Eye Off the Ball. Watch coaching clinics. Read more books. Read Mark Schofield's book about, I forget what it is. Some about like a couple of college drives that change the season. Read coaching clinics. Learn. Go over in your head, okay, what's the difference between cover 4 push and cover 4 meg and cover 4 mod, and like just figure it out and keep talking about it, ask questions. No, like the package they use for ABT. Would you do an ABT package move up to get a third first round selected wire? It depends on who fall. Yeah, Eagle, that's my bad. I've been doing this for a little bit now. I'm kind of talking to myself. For me, no. Personally, because I think there's too many good receivers to use all that capital to trade up and get a receiver. Like, especially the way that the college football is now, there's so many good receivers coming out every single year. It's not like a Williams or a Wilson or Olave or like outliers where you can't get one of those guys in the in years down the road, or even get a guy similar in talent in the second round. So no, I'm not trading out for a receiver. It's too heavily flooded with talent there. You think we go all-line and receiver in the first round picks, solidify the offense and fix the defense more in free agency? My thing in free agency right now is tight end, safety, linebacker, and then BPA after that. Good work, guys. Appreciate that. You misread my question. Yeah, my bad, Eagle. I understood you. Hey, Legend, it's not as easy. You're trying to do it by yourself here, right? Is Karlaftis worth the 4th pick right now? In my opinion, no. Could he be? Yes, I have to watch. Moving on from the game, just like really quick, I'll hit questions, but I gotta get off. I work midnight, so I gotta go sleep real quick. So if you want to throw like anything else in there, I'll read it quickly after the game, or after the recap. Just go through the positions. Quarterback, we talked about it. Running backs, I think they were okay. I was impressed with Walter, impressed with Ty Johnson, nothing crazy. Offensive line, hell of credit to Dan Feeney, LDT, ABT. They all played really well in the interior, opened up a lot of gaps. Defensive line, I thought Huff had a couple of plays. I'll highlight a couple in the review. He was clearly held on multiple, wasn't called. But he's been a little bit more average-ish. Like, I thought he would prove himself this year to be a potential starter next year. He's proven to be more of a really good depth piece to me. Mosley, solid. Safeties, the play by Elijah Riley was inexcusable. People are like, oh, well, the coaching staff has to tell him he can't get beat deep there. You're in cover 2. The number 2 runs an out route, and the 1 is running a vertical. That's like grammar level, 8th grade football level shit. Like, you don't have to tell a safety to not get beat deep in cover 2. Like, we have to babysit these guys. Hey, just keep backpedaling. Like, no, he's a football player. You called cover 2, don't get beat. Like, it's crazy that people think like that. Like, oh, they should have told him not to get beat. No shit. He probably wasn't thinking that. I probably let him beat me deep. How do you feel about Zach's mom? I think she needs to shut up if that's a serious question, but enough with the Instagram shit. I don't know how she's been recently. I don't really pay attention to it. Keep the 3rd rounders this year. JOD so hot this picks last year. Yeah. If anything, get more picks. Don't trade out 4 picks. First pick, Kyle Hamilton with it. 2nd pick, Nakobe Dean, who's shooting up draft boards. I wouldn't be mad with it. I just want to look more into Nakobe Dean because it seems like he's really rising up recently. So I want to see what that rise is about. Sauce Gardner is better than Stingley at corner. I think Stingley probably has it over just pure talent, but in terms of reliability and injuries, I would, right now, very baseline level, Sauce Gardner over Stingley. I'm taking Sauce Gardner. I can't do it with the freaking, I can't do it with the injured guys anymore. Joe the Falcons poor line. Proposed Fant for Ridley. That helps both teams. Would you? Yeah, you probably do that trade, but I don't like that trade because you're taking away from one of the most important positions that Joe Douglas is really heavy about having to add a receiver. Like I'd rather have a good tackle than a good receiver, even though Ridley's a much better receiver than Fant is a tackle, and he's much younger. So I think you technically would do that, but I don't think Douglas would look to do that. You just add him with picks. JFM season, good at first, disappointing since the contract. He's not worth $15 million. He's playing like he's a $10 million player. Like he's definitely making more of an impact than people see on a down basis, but worth 15 million or 13 and a half, 14, whatever it is. No. Somebody asked, best left tackle. Jets not. Yeah, we're not going to trade Fant. Possible Q extension is fully gone. I think one of Foley or Rankins are gone. I think if Foley's not back, Rankins is back. I think if Foley's back, Rankins is gone. My problem with Foley is his best fits in a 3-4, 2-gapping nose tackle. Right now he's playing, 3 tech, 2-eye, 0 at times, penetrating. It's not his role. So again, that's another, how are you going to pay $8-9 million for a guy who's a square peg, round hole, who's only going to play 50-60% of the snaps just based on his position because he's not really pass rush. Like you're going to take him off the field and third down ideally. So I don't think Foley's back, even though I would love him back. And Q extension, Q has to play better to deserve $19-20 million a year right now. Q to me made more of an impact, more splash plays in year 2 than he has in year 3. And I know he's been hurt a little bit in year 3, but like he hasn't had like that 49ers game, that Dolphins game like he did last year. Like a lot of his sacks this year, like watch it. He has 6. I think 2 or 3 of them are just on stunts, which you're not really doing a lot on the stunt. So he's been disappointing. I think you extend him to that 5th-year option. You're not signing him right now. He has to prove more. I'd rather have 6 picks, 10 to 64 than 4 picks, 140, no blue chips. Talk about the tight ends, nothing really there. Defensive line, again, I said Huff a little bit better. Linebackers, Mosley, yeah, Elijah Riley. I already talked about all stuff. The corners were not good this game. I know that Eccles had a pick. It was a good pick. It wasn't anything crazy, to be completely honest. Like looking back at it, Hall got beat up a little bit by Gronkowski, but Eccles and Hall, I know they had a lot of plays that showed up on film, like or on broadcast, and people I think they were good. Hall average at best this game. Eccles minus the pick, giving up a 3rd and 20, inexcusable to me. Michael Carter the second had a good game, but other than that, the corners weren't great this game. That's for sure. You have to plan ahead when putting your team together. Yeah, of course. Q is not playing every down. They have limited snaps considering that he's been. Yeah, that's the problem with the coaching staff too. Chitty, Took, listen, should in any world should Quinn Williams be playing 65% of the snaps while Nathan Shepard gets 40? No, like I get having a rotation, but to a certain extent, like if you want to play him 75, 80, okay, fine. Then play Nathan Shepard, whoever else, 15 to 20, sure. But when it's closer to 50-50, no, absolutely not. It can't happen. Other than that, from the game, I can't really think of anything. Bills, I think they lose 31-20. I think they keep it competitive though. Moving on to the questions really quick. I got to bounce though. Tag a tackle. That is like 20 million plus capital. That is crazy. We're not tagging anybody. I don't know. We're talking about tagging Fant. Yeah, that's what is it? The average of the top 5 tackles in the league. It's not. Hall, yeah, he got beaten by Evans a couple of times. Hall's problem is like he has a problem in terms of whether to play just to the ball or through the receiver to the ball. He gets lost with the ball in the air. And while he has good length in the line of scrimmage, he kind of puts himself off balance because he doesn't get shuffles into the line of scrimmage. He opens up immediately. And if a guy like Evans is bigger, if you give him that gate, that open gate, he's going to take it and he's going to stack you. So he struggled with Evans, struggled with Gronk a little bit. Which they're good players, but if you think he's number 1, he's not to me yet. He's number 2. Eccles minus a flash play and a tackle or 2. That 3rd and 20 plays, it's inexcusable. A couple of inexcusable plays. So, let's see. What do you think of our defensive scheme? I feel like a lot of play calling is defense very questionable. I understand the lack of talent, but yeah, I talked about it a lot before, or just in the past. But they have to be more flexible. 1, with players playing time. 2, if you're getting gashed in a run game, listen, you can't just strictly play 4-3, 4-2, 5-2, and just rush guys penetrating them up the field. Like the Patriots have a lot of success even with the rushers, but they also have hybrid schemes where they put their nose tackle as a 2-gapper. Like they gotta be a little more flexible with that. In terms of like the cover 6 versus 4 versus 3 versus man, people bitch about that stuff when it doesn't work out. But then they bitch the other way when they want the exact opposite thing to happen. It doesn't work out either. Like, oh, need to play more zone on third down. Okay, they play a lot of zone on third down versus the Falcons got gashed. Like that's a talent thing at a certain extent, but they do not. They should not be 32nd in the league right now. That is for sure. LDT starting next year? No, I'm not okay with them starting. Again, I talked about it before. You either bring in a high tier right guard and he's a backup, or if that doesn't happen, am I comfortable with him competing? Is it ideal? No. Am I comfortable with him competing with a second, third round pick for the right guard spot? If he wins it, great. If he doesn't, great. He's great depth. If he's a starter for a year and that guy steps up next year to be the right guard, okay, I'm cool with that. But right now, him being locked in starter, I'm not cool with that. Not yet. But who are you paying if not the QB? I don't know what you're talking about. Jets gang. We obviously don't have to pay Zach Wilson yet. We're not just going to pay Quinnen Williams to pay Quinnen Williams because listen, the Jets want to compete in 2-3 years from now. Quinnen Williams is taking up $20 million and he's worth 15. That $5 million could be, a solid slot receiver. Like we can't just overpay him. We can't overpay because we have the money. We still have to give people fair contracts. Would you invest another O-line high in the first round? You think he'd be good enough for? No, Joe Douglas. If there's a guy, if he loves Evan Neal, and Evan Neal's there at 4, he thinks he could play right guard for a year or two, and then transition him to right tackle when Fant leaves. I do not put it past him to have, because like right now, Becton coming back, Fant coming back. Let's just say LDT, AVT, McGovern. I think that's about an average to a little bit above average line. Look at the numbers this last couple of weeks; they're about average. With those guys coming back, I think they're, let's say, 14 best offensive line in the league. If they can get a lockdown right guard, they're a top 10 line, and I don't think Douglas will ever say no to that. So, agreed in the corners last game. Yeah, they were not good. Just say we play like top right tackle and keep him 2 years. The thing with people are like, oh my God, he's old. He's like 29 years old, and tackles can last until they're 35, and he doesn't have a lot of miles on the tires because he just started like playing football and just started playing tackle. Let's see next year playoffs for us. I think they should be competing next year. I legitimately do. Hall plays against Brown. Stop Brown was one of his worst players. Yeah. Hall did not have a good game that game. It is what it is. Aaron said he wanted Brown there. Yeah, Aaron's had a lot of praise for Zach Wilson, huh? He said he's going to be legit. And it seems like of course, if you're like Bruce Arians not going to ask about Zach Wilson, because the kid sucks. Like, oh yeah, he played well. Looks like good. But like when you go above and beyond, that's what you can really tell. And he went above and beyond in his praise of him. Eccles is the epitome of depth when you're a good team. Yeah, Eccles is a 4 or 5. That's a really good pick, but you don't want him as a starter. No way. But again, people get, oh my God, I picked Tom Brady as the starter. Okay, well, what about the other 40 plays? These schemes can compromise without safety play. Yeah, every scheme. That's the thing with the whole safety thing. Oh, safeties aren't as important. Why? Unless you're playing cover 0 every single rep, safety in cover 1 is important. Cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, cover 5. Cover 7, cover 6. Safety is always important. I don't get that argument that safety, maybe corner, I could see it a little bit, but not really. Like secondary is important no matter what you do. I don't get that. It doesn't make sense to me. I think it's something that's been recycled. People say it, but I don't see the meaning of that. It's way overblown. Is Fant break out a product of facing not only talent on the edge? No. I don't think it's a part of project that he didn't play Bosa or anything like that, but he's been really good. He would struggle more with better guys, obviously. Should we bring back Sheldon Richardson? Maybe I could see it. If let's say if Rankins isn't back and Foley's not back, if you want to bring him back as like another 3 tech, okay, like, sure. But Marshall is target. I can't tell you. Guys in second round. That's what I'm gonna say. Nobody in the first, second round guys. Is it Drake London or whoever the guy from USC is? Like there's I like Mechie, speed guy out of Alabama. Like there's some guys I'd like in the second through fourth rounds, but I'm just gonna say mid round guys. I have so much stuff to do. Which none of this matters. Zach doesn't work out, although I think he will. I've been really impressed recently. Yeah, it's true, Antos, but I agree with you. Eccles getting destroyed by the media as Tom Brady to sign football. My feelings, and this is my last thing for the night. My feelings are people need to get a fucking life. In terms of shitting on Eccles for asking him to sign a football. He picked the best quarterback of all time. You could debate with your wall. He has 7 rings. Probably you could argue one of the best players in any sport ever. Like him, Jordan, like he's in Gretzky. He's in that conversation. You picked him off as a rookie. You asked him to sign a ball. We're going to shit on that kid for that? Like, are we serious? Now, if we just lost to him in the Super Bowl and he asked to do that, I would be pissed. but you're 4-12 and you ask the best quarterback of all time to sign a ball you picked off from him. Like get a life. Like this is what we're concerned about. People need to go outside, get a hobby, start working out, play a game. I don't know. Like who the fuck cares? Okay. You guys appreciate that answer. I appreciate you. I will be back. The film's coming out Saturday morning. Make sure you check out that. I know a lot of people in here don't. Plenty do, but I know at least a decent amount of people don't. Check it out. Just even if you want to just watch Zach Wilson stuff for 30 minutes, just do that. Ryan's show Monday, Jets Talk 24/7. My own show Thursday, 6 to 8 with Kyle Smith. Green Bean show from 8 to 9 on Thursday. Film show after that, and then I'm going to get into some Elijah Moore tape, ABT tape, do shows on those. I'll see about the hour shows every other week that I'm not doing with Kyle. I'll still considering that. And past that, I'll talk to you guys later. Yeah, Rankins deals was for 2 years. It's like 6.5 next year. Richter, so they could extend it, but they can also cut them with no penalty. So I'll see you guys later. Thanks for being here.